The sky so far away tonight, but I can't lose this war, get a pride of a falling night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me where did we go so the sky so far, but I can't lose it.
Sim racers from around the globe, honoring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beast wheel to wheel around the hallowed grounds. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet. Perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of the early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series, presented by SimXperience, starts now.
Sage Karam domination came to an end the last time the Lionheart Retro Series was in action, the north of the border, as Aaron Morgan took his first ever victory at the SimXperience Grand Prix of Motorsport. We head back to US soil today and towards the Pocono Mountains, down Andretti Road and into the Tricky Triangle, and our first Triple Crown race in the 2021 Lionheart Retro Series. In the last 4 years, this track has delivered some amazing finishes, with the largest margin of victory just being over 1/10 of a second. And perhaps it's fitting that for the first of our Triple Crowns, we head to a track with just 3 corners, distinct and difficult in their own way, for the Watchman 250, presented by Chris Fowler Racing. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. I'm joined by Dylan Burke for today's action, with TV cameras developed by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com. Additional car cameras designed by RaceSpott's own Tyler Maxson. You can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading on over to timing71.org using their world-class suite of data analysis tools. Let's dive straight into our pre-show presented by HyperX, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, the makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. And Jonathan, the first of our Triple Crown events, no double points today because we are only racing for 250 miles, and I say only because that will be a rather long race here at a 2.5-mile racetrack, but a track relatively close to where you live as well. It should be a really interesting race. 3 and 4 wide might be the norm.
And we saw the margin of victory, like the largest one's only been a 10th, so it's going to be an exciting finish to the end. This is the first really large oval since the opening round in Homestead that we're going to, and really a test of how people are going to handle in the draft come the next Triple Crown event at Indianapolis. So this is going to be a really, really big challenge, and just a note here, it's a race anyone can win. We mentioned Sage Karam domination. Sage Karam has never led a lap here, never mind one at Pocono, so it's going to be a really, really interesting race.
I can't wait to see what it's like. I mean, I was rewatching the finish from last year. It was super close. I mean, the margin was just 0.07 of a second. The closest margin, though, was 1/100th of a second. That was back in Season 2 when the Lionheart IndyCar Series king Adam Blocker took victory from Dustin Wardlow. Let's take a look then, though, at the point structures presented by SimXperience and the AccuForce Pro V2. Despite the fact that he missed out last time out, Sage Karam still does enjoy a relatively healthy advantage of 15 points at the front. It is Morgan that shoots his way up into 4th, but an impressive running there from Matt Taylor here, Jonathan, at the highest place of the rookies, and up there in 2nd position as well.
Yeah, I think this is one of these events and one of these tracks where Matt Taylor can obviously get a win and really, really step up and try and separate himself. But right now, it looks like at the front of the pack, we have these 2 Raven Motorsports drivers and 2 Avatar Racing drivers. You know, Morgan getting that first win, really, really key, and Harden still being a threat as well for the championship. I think these guys are not going to go in that with the championship on their minds today, but I feel like they know they can't have a bad day here with a full field of 36.
Well, and I just want to clarify, Jonathan Burke alongside Arjuna Kankipati. I've just been informed by Jonathan that I bumbled his name. Let's not bumble then these rookie standings presented by buttkicker. It is Taylor that enjoys that advantage, but I do expect this one to shake up over the course of the season. DJ Clark, for example, was 3rd at Homestead, now finds himself 7th in these championship standings. The Lavoie Motorsports teams, they enjoyed a pretty nice run north of the border at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Quick look then at the team standings as well, presented by HyperX and Raven Motorsports Silver, who did start to build up a bit of a buffer in the opening couple of rounds, Jonathan. They're being reeled on in, and if you take a look at, 1st through 7th, we're separated by just under 80 points.
Yeah, I think, Avatar Racing, the second and fourth in the Drivers' Championship by themselves. I think they're really, really stepping up. But you mentioned that third team, Livonia Motorsport. Don't count them out. I think we often kind of forget about the teams when we're running in these big packs because there's 36 cars. It's so much going on. But this team's championship still wide open besides that 40-point lead up front.
And so let's look top to bottom at the various championships, at least the ones that we'll talk about. There are a lot more that in our post-season show that we'll be able to get to as well. Hard chargers, clean drivers, all the sorts. The 5th year of the Lionheart Retro Series in 7 years of the Lionheart Racing Series. Of course, a custom fix setup with the legendary Lotus 79 that, of course, was pioneering ground effect all those years ago. Cash and prizes, $6,774. And today we start our road to the Triple Crown. In a couple of weeks' time, we'll head to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well. But then we wait all the way till December and the Auto Club Speedway for one more of our longer races. Ryan Otis, the defending series champion, focusing his attention on the IndyCar Series instead, has been making a few guest appearances on the roadside, but he won't be in action today. These series details, by the way, brought to you by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to use the promo code minus273LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. Talk a bit about this race itself. I really have enjoyed going back in time, Jonathan, and watching some of these past races. There has never been a repeat pole sitter or race winner. Attrition very important. You can see 6 to 9 cautions, what we should expect. And that margin of victory, it's going to be oh so close, and one has to wonder, someone like Lionel Callisto, who has not enjoyed the best of starts to his series so far, can he bounce back at a track that he took victory at 12 months ago?
Yeah, there's so many guys in this field that I think can take a victory, and it's going to be really, really key. But you mentioned it, attrition is going to be key. This is, Pocono. It's a long speedway. Top speeds, we're going like 170, 180 into some of these corners. Turn 1 can be really, really tricky. Turn 3, if you get on the throttle a little too early, you can end up spinning the car around. Just making sure you're there at the end, I think, is going to be the biggest key to trying and stealing a win here.
I tell you what, let's take a look at some track action for the first time today as the cars warm themselves up. Still a couple of minutes left in practice. We have rocketed through our pre-show, which does mean we get this opportunity. Haven't really got that chance throughout the season so far, but I don't think this is what we're going to be necessarily expecting, Jonathan. This is very orderly. This is single file. What I'm expecting, especially on restarts, is 2 and 3 wide. The wonderful thing about this racetrack, and I tell you what, let's go talk a little bit about it while these cars finish up in practice. 2.5 miles in length, 3 corners, all very different. They were modeled on various different turns from around the United States. Turn 2, of course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the tunnel turn. The most famous of them, if you ask me. Then Turn 3, Milwaukee Mile, was the inspiration for that one. Turn 1, not many people will know this name, but Trenton Speedway, 14 degrees of banking. That's the one with the most banking, but it's also one where cars might be breaking into in this race.
Yeah, with that long straightaway on the front stretch, running down in that first corner, you've seen in real life big accidents heading down to Turn 1, whether it be in the NASCAR or on the IndyCar side. And don't be surprised if you see a couple dive bombs here. I think, again, we'll mention in practice, it's a lot orderly right now, but there's going to be some guys trying to make some big moves, especially if someone's getting a little bit wide out of Turn 1, they slow up. Look at this big draft here. They head into Turn 2. Another easing passing opportunity.
And we might see, I think, as well, Jonathan, tires really start to play a factor. It's not necessarily something we think about in this Lotus 79, but the cars will very much get looser over the course of the run as well, just the weight transfer as well. And if people maybe aren't expecting that as we get later and later in this race, 250 miles, one of the longer races we've had so far this season, it might be something that drivers have to think about as the checkered flag waves and cars get one final attempt to come down onto pit road. Solo car qualifying about to begin. And Jonathan, at a track like this with no draft, it really does mean you have to paint those white lines, carry the most momentum that you can, and minimize the distance to get the fastest lap time possible.
And some people may be thinking, well, it's just single car qualifying at a track where the draft is so key, it doesn't matter. And I mentioned this on Monday night when we were at Talladega for RSR. Yes, you need good track position, I think, to strategize out your race. If you're starting in the top 10, chances are you're going to stay there and you're going to want to be up front. If you're starting anywhere further back, that's where decisions have to be made. Do I want to charge to the front? Do I want to ride at the back and just play this out? Do I need to save fuel? Qualifying is very, very under-talked about in big events at big tracks, like Pocono for IndyCar or even Indianapolis, but it's so key to mapping out your race strategy.
Well, and I would just say as well, when we've seen this race have between 6 to 9 cautions, I mean, you do have to think that track positioning will be important as well, Jonathan. I mean, you want to make sure that you can stay out of the wrecks, but you don't want to put yourself in a bad position to work yourself up through the field late in the run. That was Matt Taylor, who's made his way back down onto pit road, so clearly not satisfied with how his warm-up lap was going. These cars get 2 flying laps to set their fastest lap times here on the ovals. It does mean that you get at a track like this with lap times, I think, roughly going to be upwards of 45 or so seconds. We're waiting for the first times to come down onto the board. Let's go take a look then as Taylor gets himself back up to speed. Trying to figure out who we should go ride on board. And I tell you what, let's ride on board with Chris Fowler. He'll have one of our onboard cameras in today's race, and coming down in towards turn 2, Jonathan, talk to us about how difficult this turn is. A little bit flatter than you'd think, and if you're on the inside, you can sometimes wash up into the car on that outside line.
Yeah, you mentioned it's modeled after the tunnel turn in Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but the difference between the tunnel turns is that, well, that's a lot longer of a straightaway, and there's a lot less margin for error on that outside wall. And then we head into this turn 3, modeled after Milwaukee Mile, another place near to home for me. Very, very flat. You want to get it perfect so you don't go into the wall. You don't overdrive the corner. And then we have this long run down to turn 1, this insanely wide front straightaway. There's going to be many, many dive bombs coming here. Smooth in. You don't probably want to get closer to the bottom, especially in a car like this. It can get really, really upset through the corner. You probably want to stay towards the middle.
I've noticed
that was
something.
a really, really good job by Fowler, who currently has the pole position.
He's got pole. Nick de Groot already back down onto pit road. And I tell you what, Jonathan, let's go straight for the racespottv replay machine. Ooh, that's a big wiggle coming through turn 1. And that's why he's done for qualifying. Watch for that in the race as well, Jonathan, because I think as I was alluding to earlier on, the weight transfer might be something that drivers really struggle with later in this race.
And the exit of turn 1 can be a sight for calamity. We've seen it in IndyCar, we've seen it in NASCAR. And obviously you get a little wide, you brush that outside wall, and all of a sudden back down in the inside, hitting that grater, that barrier wall, which, again, some of these walls around here, we should also mention, we're on the legacy form. Some of these walls are a bit tougher than the current models, so you might want to watch out for how close you're cutting into those walls and how much damage you have in these cars.
Absolutely. This is a 2009 version of Pocono Raceway. As across the line for his first lap is the championship leader, Sage Karam, down in towards turn 1. Let's listen to the sound of his engine. He is flat out in qualifying. What a wonderful noise it is as well. Important qualifying, I think, for Sage Karam, who has always had to work his way up through the field in these races, as 60 seconds are going to be left on the qualifying clock very shortly. 5 cars have yet to set qualifying lap times. Chris Lanini, Thomas Lovelady, Gary Corley, Richie Hearn, of course, an Indy 500 competitor in the past in Full Metal Motorsports. And then last year's race winner, Lionel Callisto. He might be lining up at the back, but Sage Karam getting a bit tight out of turn number 3. Across the start-finish line to complete qualifying for the Dryer and Reinbolt driver. It will be a 49.094, but Michael O'Brien has done a 48.993. Sage Karam on the outside of the top 10, but just about holding on. A couple of other cars are having issues, by the way, late in qualifying. Ken Hacker, Chris Lanini. So I think we really do have to start thinking about, Jonathan, the fact that even by themselves, drivers are struggling to keep this car at full speed.
And we're going to have to see how much that draft really affects the closing rates and the exit speeds coming out of these corners. It might make it more and more of a handful as the race goes on.
Well, qualifying comes to a close then here in the Pocono Mountains. Let's go trackside and take a look at our starting grid for round number 5, the Watchman 250. So here is your butt kicker starting grid. It is Michael O'Brien, the number 45 car. It was looking strong last time north of the border at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Short trip in towards Pennsylvania, down Andretti Road. And he, with a 48.993, takes pole position. Adam Young will line up on his outside in the Riding Shotgun Motorsports wood and red colored number 12, with Mike Rasmus and Matt Taylor second place in the championship, rounding out row number 2. Paul Jenkins on the inside of row 3. He'll have Aaron Morgan, race winner a couple of weeks ago, lining up on his outside. Chris Fowler on the inside of row number 4, with Mike Rigney in the 00 to his outside. Chris Reagan, black and purple on the inside of row 5, with Sage Karam, championship leader, rounding out the top 10. Ariel Alanis on the inside of Isaac Snyder in the pink and blue machines. 2 independent drivers rounding out row 6, with Mark Cohen in the Pink Panther Graphics LC Motorsports number 39 on the inside of David Sirois for Lavoie Motorsports. Covey Moore, Chris Staples 15th and 16th, with Ricky Harding and DJ Clark 17th and 18th respectively. Alex Guyon, Caleb Benchy rounding out the top 20 with, it looks like similar colors, but they aren't teammates. Craig Forsyth and Paul Slavonic row 11 on the grid. Danny Roberts in the all-red machine, and the number 43 with Robert Mikes, the 24. He's got some fans in our YouTube chat. He will round out row number 12. Cody Wenzen makes his debut in the Lionheart Racing Series in 25th position, alongside the teal machine of Trevor Malone. Jean-Francois Matt inside of Ron Hacker, with Ken Hacker lining up in 29th. And Nick DeGroot, lots of work for him to do, all the way back in 30th position. Chris Lanini alongside George Anzaldo, with Lionel Calista, Richie Hearn 33rd and 34th. The first cars not to set a qualifying lap time, with Thomas Lovelady and Gary Corley rounding out our 36-car field. We do have a number of onboard cameras to take a look at over the course of this race. Wonderful thing about iRacing, of course, is it's not just the 4, but indeed the entire field. Mark Cohn has the DMLC Racing on board. The DMLC Racing channel, your home for the best sim racing videos online. Series organizer George Anzaldo has the HyperX on board. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. Ricky Hardin has the Graphics Esports on board. World-class design from the real world to virtual. Visit graphicsesports.com. Chris Fowler has the Chris Fowler Racing on board. Join Chris on his sim racing journey through his live streams. Visit Fowler Racing on Twitch. So, tension begins to build here in the tricky triangle. Jonathan, let's get some predictions from you then. 36 cars should be a very exciting 250 miles, 100 laps at this 2.5 mile track. Who do you think will come out on top? Can we finally see, since the first time since season 1, pole position take victory here at this track?
I mean, he was on form when we were at Mosport, but I really, really want to think that Matt Taylor might make a big move and think about the championship, the rookie championship, and get a win here. If they stay towards the front, that team is in good position. But again, you have to watch for all 36 of these cars. Anyone can really have a shot here.
Taylor does have a victory. He is classified as a rookie more just by virtue of the limited number of races that he has run here in the Lionheart Retro Series. He's been a strong competitor, not just here in the Retro, but of course across of the IndyCar and the Speedway Series as well. But at the front, it is Michael O'Brien, Adam Young that get us underway here in the Watchman 250, presented by Chris Fowler Racing here in the heart of the Pocono Mountains. Already 3 wide further back in the pack, but they will sort themselves out as they make their way down in towards turn number 2. Looks like Chris Fowler on the inside of some 3 wide action. Is 2 wide, about 3 deep from second on back. O'Brien with a healthy lead over second and third as Mike Rasmus tries to get on past Adam Young. Ooh, we've got the first caution already. It's going to be Chris Staples off into the grass, into the inside wall. Somehow, though, Jonathan, because he flew his way down and filtered himself into the grass, we have stayed green, and it looks like a couple of other cars might have gone scrambling as well there.
there was 2 or 3 that were trying to move to the back, and I don't know who that is slowly. I think that's Nick DeGroot or Thomas Lovelady, one of those two that was slow on the inside of the corner in 3 and 4. I don't know what exactly happened there, but Staples going to be on pit road for quite a long time.
And they were getting very racy, and out front, Adam Young to the inside of O'Brien trying to challenge for the lead, but interesting to note, the 45 able to hang on the high side, and already you can see some separation beginning to form between the front and rear of the pack. Although I say that, it very much is reminiscent of you were saying Talladega on Monday night. 6 seconds separates 35 cars here, Jonathan. I wouldn't want to be in this sort of a traffic jam compared to what you saw slightly earlier in the week.
No, and I'm expecting a Talladega-like big one to come at some point, but this is the first 5 laps, I think, is where everyone holds their breath, just trying to get a feel for what the track is doing right now, trying to get a feel for the run. And we're going to see like how these guys at the front are going to fight. I'm actually very surprised that these two want to go side by side and fight for the lead, but I mean, I understand the reasoning. Obviously, you get it out in front, you get that bonus point for leading the lap.
Well, on board with Razmas, how will he approach this? Tucked up behind the riding shotgun motorsports machine. I do love watching just the angle that you can see Young trying to take to build up the momentum. We will get, by the way, the replay of what happened to Chris Staples up on the screen in just a few moments' time. We're trying to just follow along with the action. As there's Sage Karam already up 5 positions as he works his way down the inside of last time out race winner Aaron Morgan, who ended the Sage Karam domination streak. It would have been Lionheart history if Karam could have made it 4 victories in a row. Behind, I think it was Reagan trying to get on past Mike Rigney. As they work their way down into turn 1, it's Fowler and Mark Cohn who are side by side right now. Chris Fowler is already down 4 places on the day. And as they seem to be relatively cool, we'll go and pick up this racespottv replay. And we're going to have to spool this one slightly further back, Jonathan, but you hate to say, maybe slightly self-inflicted there, the 96 machine.
We're talking about Monday night. I mentioned on Monday night a couple times. There was a lot of ones of you just misjudged the gap, and that one I think was just a gap misjudge. He thought it was there, that it can come down and get a run into the short chute. That was not going to happen, unfortunately.
And he's still on pit road. We'll take one more look at it here, and then we'll try and... I think you're right that it was DeGroot. Let's see if we can jump on board with the 89 machine. Might not actually be DeGroot here, but let's see. No, it will be someone in front, unfortunately, so we'll try and pick that out at a later point, but at the very least, a couple of looks then at an incident that, as Alexander Van der Sant puts it in the YouTube chat, apparently cautions relatively hard to bring out here at the Tricky Triangle, so that might benefit some of these contenders, but I'm still looking at these race stats provided to us by the great organizers here at the Lionheart Racing Series, Jonathan, and 6 to 9 cautions, it tells its own story.
I think typically the cautions get brought out if there's issue on the pavement, on the paved part of the racetrack, and obviously with these cars 2 and 3 wide like they are coming out of these exits of the corners as tightly as they have been, there might be some calamity coming over there. I think spinning off into the grass was the worst part.
This is... Okay, we said there was craziness. You just have to fly your way back to the edge of the top 20, basically. Trevor Malone in the teal machine. He's been strong on occasion this season. He's got Ron Hacker, Cody Wenzen on debut in 26th, and then Jean-Francois Matt behind them. Can see the importance of Dirty Air, as I believe that series organizer, George Anzaldo, who will tuck down to the inside. And then let's jump on board with our HyperX onboard camera. Use our wonderful little gyro that we have here, courtesy of iRacing, for fixing this. And Zaldo tries to squeeze the 82 car, Jean-Francois Matt, but momentum then on the side of the 82 car there, Jonathan.
Yeah, these outside lines in 3 and turn 1 I think are going to be key. I think the outside lines in turn 2, not recommended, but I think right here they can be really, really strong. And I'm hoping the 6 car is a good outing. We saw last time out at Mosport, Gonzaldo did not have the best of days.
You can say that again. To the inside is the championship contender side by side. Karam trying to get on past Matt Taylor. Think he should be able to get it done. But to the inside, throws a slide job, you'd have to assume, and Karam up 6 positions on the day, Jonathan. He seems on a mission over the course of the season to prove me wrong and just show that it doesn't matter where you qualify, you can make your way up through the field.
Prove me wrong too. I mentioned like Sage Cam never led a lap here at Pocono, and all that. And I think he took that personally because all of a sudden he wants to go lead a lap.
Yeah, we almost got up into second there, but he'll settle for a step on the podium, be it the lowest rung. Sage Karam, a Pennsylvania native. Nazareth, I'm not sure exactly how far it is from Long Pond. Jonathan, you might be a little bit more familiar than me, but I have no doubt that Karam has many experiences of coming to this track and either racing or seeing the Andretti household racing here as well.
And there's obviously tons of racing action. He's actually, not too far away. He's actually a little bit closer than I am to the big Pocono Hills. He's just a little bit north of Allentown, PA. So this is definitely home track. And when the series, 3-time winner so far this season, hasn't led a lap here, I think that he takes that personally. He wants to win at this track.
Yeah, well, he's up into second now, so I think that charge to the front, he's got a championship on his mind and very much on a mission clearly to prove that today. Adam Young is trying to fight him, though, back side by side. Interesting to watch that turn 2, which usually you would think that the car on the inside might be able to get a bit more purchase as compared to some of the other turns. Like you can see, Karam just able to cut down in front of the 12, feed him dirty air, and that forces him to slide up in front of Matt Taylor, who fortunately sees that one coming and decides not to run into the back of the cars in front. Wonderful look here, Jonathan, as the cars fly their way down into turn 1. Speed almost reaching 200 miles an hour.
And as the further back you go in that pack, the more and more faster you get with all this draft in front of you. It's just free boost to really think about, and I appreciate how patient I think a lot of these guys are being in this mid-pack, single file out. Oh, this top of the field with Taylor and Young side by side in the short shoot. I don't seem very patient.
Sorry, I'm just listening to the sound of race car engines. Is there a better noise on any given day of the week? I challenge you to give me a better one, but almost 10% done with this one, as it will be O'Brien, Karam, Young, Taylor, and Razmas, the top 5. And look at the wonderful shot as they fly across the start-finish line to start lap 11 out of 100. Let's start talking about strategy, Jonathan. Fuel window expected to be between 35 and 37 laps. And it does mean that in a 100-lap race, it's going to be a 2-stopper. But with cautions very much, on the tip of the tongue, I do wonder how people are going to approach this race.
I think we saw at the end of practice, though, a lot of people were practicing getting on the pit road and how they were going to do that. So I think some drivers do think we're going to get a green flag pit stop for sure. So here comes Karam just, all right, well, yep, he took what I said personally. He's going to lead a lap now.
He's bullying cars. That's what he's doing here. Up 9 positions on the day. It's only taken 11 laps, and as we start lap 12 here, from the tricky triangle, hometown boy Sage Karam at the front of the field. They managed to gap second in the championship Matt Taylor by about 0.7 of a second, but draft will be an important factor here as we continue to work through this race. Should be a fun one. We've got a large rookie class in the Lionheart Retro Series. If I was counting correctly, 18 different rookies. They started the season off very, very strongly. They've kind of tailed off, and Matt Taylor very much one of the strongest. Mike Razmas is equally strong as well. He's running up in 4th position. Got Adam Young, who is not a rookie, but he's in 5th. But Aaron Morgan, emotional victory last time out. And emotional because 12 months ago when the Retro Series came to this very track, Jonathan, it was oh so close for Morgan to take his first Lionheart victory. He had to wait almost a full 12 months. It came, though, north of the border at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
And I feel like that one's a more memorable one than getting it at Pocono, because I feel like he genuinely earned that one last time out at MoSport. And it's great to see him up towards the front of the field already and not really falling back. We've seen a lot of guys fall back. We've seen a lot of guys come and go, but Morgan staying steady. I think a top 5 finish here could really help his championship standing in terms of everyone else in the field.
We jump on board with the DMLC Racing on board and the Watchman himself, Mark Cohen, former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year. Watch as he searches for some clean air. He's hanging around back in 9th position. 2 seconds adrift from the race leader, who, I must say, let's quickly jump off this offboard for now, Jonathan, because if we check in back with Sage Karam, it's almost half a second clear of Matt Taylor, who scampered on past Michael O'Brien, and O'Brien now defends from Mike Erasmus. So things change very quickly, and it's first and second in the championship, first and second in the race as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe the 45 might have a bit of fuel trouble, so he's trying to save it a little bit. He was out front for quite some time, or maybe just burnt the tires up too quickly. There's got to be something in 45's mind where he's thinking he has to get off the pace a little bit. But you mentioned looking for clean air back there in the pack. I think in the midfield, clean air is a very luxurious thing, even right here in this like battle for 10th that you see. Very luxurious.
Yeah, it's a luxury that I think few have, as Chris Fowler tried to find a way past Paul Jenkins. Unable to do so. Yellow flag waves. Who's involved? Believe DJ Clark might be. Ooh, he almost came down onto pit road, and that is a very crabbed Lotus 79, and the GSRC commentator will have to tow his one-off car back down onto pit road, and I wonder who else was involved. It might be Craig Forsyth, but at the end of the day, excuse me, Jonathan, the result is our first caution on the day.
Yeah, it said Forsyth was down pit road, and Clark was all the way to the inside. The action's already happened.
Yeah, we've not jumped.
Yeah, they've tangled.
We've not jumped back far enough. One more look at it here. Let's tell you what, right on board with Clark, who of course had that wonderful debut, start to the season here at Homestead in the Lionheart Retro Series with a podium working his way through the chaos. Watch here. Is it going to be Forsyth in front? Yes, it is, and Clark nowhere to go. And significant damage very quickly done. We'll take one more look at it, Jonathan, and take a look at the aerial coverage brought to us by ATVO, the graphical partners at racespottv.
Yeah, this is what you kind of feared of happening like later on in the run, because you mentioned tires are normally not that big of a deal in these 79s, but as the tires wear off a little bit, this car's going to get looser. They're not going to grip the track as much, riding up into that outside wall. That's exactly what happens. I'm curious to see if anyone wants to come or consider pitting. It's well outside the windows of making it onto just one more stop.
Well, if I'm trying to do the math, you would need, like you say, to get a little bit further in. But if you are, I don't know, 15th on back, why not come down and at least top up the fuel? We will find out, though, as the cars work their way through turn 2. And if the best part about Pocono, if you ask me, Jonathan, is when you come down into turn 4, turn 3, as it were, you get reminded what turn 4.
Yeah, big letters on the wall. Make sure you don't, leave a mark on them.
We'll see if this camera angle gives us a look at that one as the cars work their way towards the pit entry. Karam leads from Taylor, O'Brien, Rasmus, and Morgan to complete the top 5. Here they come. Looks like at least a couple of cars are staying out there. Not sure who. Okay, there.
Most of the people.
There we go. It was a lot of ducking and diving, and I think only Robert Mike, Isaac Snyder are the 2 cars that have come in so far, with Callisto Lanini, Richie Hearn, and Thomas Lovelady starting a bit of a trigger for, what did I say, Jonathan? 15th on back, but I would say a couple of cars, between 15th and 20th thought about that option, and a number of them have also decided to stay out there, so it only looks like about 9 cars elected to work their way onto pit road.
This wide front straightaway and this very tight pit entrance gives a lot of chances for shenanigans. And I think we saw not only fool us, but also the other drivers, as everyone looked like they were going to come down pit road, and then, no, we're staying out. I am curious in the tire wear, though. I'm very, very curious in how, after the first 15 laps, how those tires look on some of these other drivers.
Well, the one thing I know for sure is next time we get one of these caution periods, we need a better camera angle that's going to tell us which way they're coming down onto the pit lane. Aaron Morgan, by the way, runner-up last time out. Up 1 position on the day. He was working on the back of Mike Rasmus as we were working into that caution window. He's one driver that I really do think you should keep your eyes on, and a reminder that you can head on over to timing71.org to follow along with today's race and your favorite team and drivers. using their world-class suite of data analysis tools. So Snyder, Mikes, Callisto, Hearn, Lovelady, Corley, Lanini, Moore, and Clark. Cars down on pit road. So that's 26th on back. And Jonathan, you're just clarifying with me, yes, it will be a single file restart, but I do think that means when we complete that first green flag lap, the pack will be formed, the speeds will be increased, and that dive down into turn one, it's going to be an exciting one for the cars at the front of this field.
Single file restart, but how long is it going to stay single file? Probably like 5 seconds, maybe 6. Then I'll get double file, then at some point someone's going to make it 4 wide, and we're going to be holding our breath.
And this older version of Pocono, Jonathan, we kind of slightly mentioned it, but the 2009 version of Pocono that was initially released on the iRacing service, they have a more up-to-date version. The biggest thing that I'm noticing is maybe, you know, some tarmac changes and surface changes, but as well, the fact that there is no apron anymore. That's something that I've become very accustomed to. Now you'll notice all the way down to the inside, hey, you get curbing and then a little bit of grass.
Yeah, a little less surface. There was a little bit of work, particularly into the inside of the corners, and then you notice as well in this version, if you're familiar with Pocono, these trees back here, there is fencing there now after a big crash that happened in 2011 in the NASCAR Cup Series. So a little bit more, I think, gray area for the drivers to work, because if you get on that curbing, the car is going to get upset. But I feel like as well the track's a little bit smoother, not as much wear and tear, so that makes, you know, car control and making some of those daring moves a lot easier.
Well, daring moves, I mean, I'm just going to remind you, I mean, if you have not seen any of the previous finishes here in the Lionheart Retro Series races at Pocono, largest margin of victory, 0.117 seconds. That was back in Season 1. Since then, it has only gotten closer. Last year, the margin was 0.07 of a second. It was Callisto taking victory from Morgan. But now at the front, Karam and Taylor, they're first and second in the championship. The safety car back down onto the safety of pit road for the first time today. It's a long run down in towards the start-finish line. But CH Karam picks up the throttle. We get back to green flag racing. The Watchman 250 presented by Chris Fowler Racing. It is lap 19 out of 100. First caution in a race which has seen between 6 and 9 in years past. And as Karam is relatively unchallenged down on the entry into turn 1, you can already see, Jonathan, the pack has started to form.
What did I say? I said 5 seconds on the restart, and then somehow someone already pulled out right as the start-finish line passed, so that wasn't longer than 5 seconds. But Karam, I think, did the best job he could on that restart, and that's going to be good for the notes later of where to go for a perfect timing. But right here, man, she's making me nervous. That 5 machine looks a little upset right now.
Maybe cold tires as well, but the inside of Ricky Harding in the 7 with Danny Roberts in the bright red right behind them. Harding holds on for now to complete this first green flag lap with Trevor Malone and George Anzaldo side by side behind them. As across the start-finish line, this is what we expected, and out front you can see at the background of the shot. Ooh, contact between Danny Roberts and Ken Hacker. They stay okay for now, but there was almost further contact there between, I believe that was Paul Slavonic and Ken Hacker. It's checked up a whole heap of cars, Jonathan, as they fly their way down into turn 2, and they're still trying to sort themselves out.
Yeah, I think there's a few on fresh rubber that are looking to try and get those tires up to temp and make their way through the field, and there's some that are just struggling for pace in the restart. I don't know if their mojo was disrupted due to that caution, or if they're just caught off guard on these first few laps. There's a few cars that have looked really, really upset and sideways.
Anzaldo is trying to challenge Slavonic, who's on his inside, and he will get on pause, so we'll jump off the camera, onboard camera so you can take a look at the move happening. Ron Hacker trying to follow in the draft as well. Back out front, let's check in with Karam, Taylor, and Morgan, who are still 1, 2, and 3. Excuse me, Aaron Morgan up into the podium positions, and now 1, 2, 3 in the championship, Jonathan. They run 1, 2, 3 on track as well.
I don't think that's what we expected. I think when we go to a road course, that's what we expect. I don't think we expect that at an oval like this.
It's getting close on the edge of the top 10 as well. 12 car of Adam Young has Chris Reagan in the black and gold behind. I believe that's Mark Cohn no longer in a Pink Panther.
Ooh, big run.
A big front, but you can also see very uncomfortable as Adam Young is across the start-finish line. It will be Reagan up into 9th, but unable to really get the move done in a very long straightaway because draft being given to the 12 car. Oh, and there you can see, I don't think Young was looking to challenge too hard, but over-under, can he do it, Jonathan?
He's going to have a shot here, but now here comes Fowler in the 20. He wants to get it back inside the top 10, and I think inside lane versus outside lane in a 2, generally the inside is done pretty well. Looks like Reagan being a very, very polite driver and leaving the space at least, but now they single file out. Fowler
as well, not pushing the issue there. That, I'm sure, will endear him to his fellow competitors as we jump onto the Chris Fowler Racing onboard is in front. Ooh, almost ascend attempted there from Adam Young. Got up onto the inside curve very briefly, but able to hold on to the number 12. We'll jump back to just behind these cars. Benchy, who, like you were saying, at some points has not necessarily looked the most stable, Jonathan, has worked his way up through the field, left side of the screen. And let's quickly talk about movers and shakers in today's race. Of course, Karam at the front up 9, but it's not just him. You've got drivers like Ken Hacker and Jordan Zaldo, who are up 12 and 14 places, respectively.
Yeah, but then there's some guys who have been followers right here, and you can see Adam Young in the 12 almost losing the top 10. He was down 8 places. Fowler's lost a couple as well. And, you know, the drivers that have been in the incidents have probably lost the most, so that would be Shark and Foresight right now. So we'll see this move, I think, as soon as green flag pit stops come for those guys that didn't come down pit road at the front of the field in about 15 laps time.
Alanis and Roberts side by side, squabbling over 17th position and some very important track real estate as well, because for a lot of these cars, we work lap 24. We're only, Jonathan, about 10 or 12 laps from the pit window really opening for them.
Yeah, and I feel like this is also like a kind of a Talladega race that you want someone to come down with you and at least give you a draft on your outlap so you get really good speed and jump a few cars. I don't know exactly what these multi-car teams are going to plan, but for some of the single drivers, I think it's going to be best to come down in large groups.
But large groups are good, but at a pit entry like this, Jonathan, such high speeds, it can be tricky to hit your marks. And there's a reason we saw the drivers practicing, in the final stages of practice, because it's just that final opportunity to try perfecting your marks, seeing the opportunities, and making sure that when it comes to the important pit stops that you hit your marks, you get in and get out of pit road in the least time possible.
And I'm glad we're doing this in the virtual world, because Pocono's pit entry and some of its calamity has had issues here. We saw NASCAR races. I believe there was an issue between Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2004. Gordon got tagged and then slid into Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s pit box. 2 crew guys got, unfortunately, very, very injured from the incident. So it's a wide ride racetrack, and you're coming down to that tight pit road. I think you still want to come down in groups, but I think you got to just orchestrate it better. You got to talk to the drivers around you, talk to your teammates, see what their plan is, and see how everyone's going to kind of attack it. Because I don't think this pack is breaking up anytime soon. So if some people come down on the same lap, well, you're going to have to coordinate with someone.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, 25 cars separated by 6 seconds, so we're not seeing as much side-by-side, I would say, but you're right, the pack is definitely not in any danger of breaking up. The biggest gap you have is between Hardin and David Sirois for 12th and 13th position. We're watching just behind that as Alex Guyon and Caleb Benchy squabbling over 14th position. For these guys, I mean, clean air is so hard to find. We've got a car off the track. Thomas Lovelady on the grass. We stay under green, though, crucially, because he's come down to the inside and the automatic race control system. And despite the damage clearly on the number 29, Jonathan, has decided we are going to stay green. So let's pull up the racespottv replay machine and quickly take a look at this incident.
Just a tag, and ooh. There was about 3 or 4. Oh, my goodness gracious. That was a heavy hit. And then inside wall. I don't know what was worse, the hit or the 3 cars that were almost behind him that got taken out with him.
Take one more look at this. It's a sizable shove up the track. And, he goes airborne for a second. Fortunate to not go end over end, but clearly day done then for Thomas Lovelady. One more look at it if we can, Jonathan, because that was a rather big impact. Not sure exactly who that one was with. It might have been Robert Mikes or Chris Lanini. We'll have to try and get a better answer on that one.
That's too wide coming through the short chute. You know, obviously in real life it's already shown how dangerous that can be, and just like in real life, in the virtual world, can be dangerous. Just a little bit of contact can send a car barreling to the inside. That's going to be Lovelady's day done and dusted, I'm pretty sure.
So 36 starters. Looks like then 4 retirements. Lovelady, DJ Clark, Craig Forsyth, and then Chris Staples will be the retirements for the day. Of course, Staples didn't even get past lap number 1 as we ride on board with Mike Rigney. You'll notice, it's a very ominous cloud that suddenly appeared over the Pocono Raceway. Haven't really talked about the track conditions, Jonathan, but relatively warm track temperature, if you ask me. 36 degrees Celsius. And when you get a cloud like that coming over the circuit, that might actually help out some of these cars, but it might also shift the balance very slightly.
And Pocono's, at least this version of Pocono, it's still an abrasive circuit, not as abrasive as the current model, but tire wear is still going to be an issue. Tire temps, I almost think, are going to be more of an issue. You don't want to be overheating these tires and causing way too much wear to happen than it should happen.
As Mark Cohn and Mike Rasmus are side by side, Cohn works trying to get up his 8th position on the day. Excuse me, as he's trying to challenge Rigney for 6th position. Rasmus in front, and will be feeding some draft to the 00, and Cohn not going to get on passes behind as well. I believe that's Chris Fowler and Adam Young on the edge of the top 10, side by side. We are starting, though, Jonathan, to see the gap starting to form. Left side of your screen, you can see the intervals now rather than the gaps between the leader and various cars. But, for example, 11th through 12th, there's a full second between Chris Fowler and David Zirwa.
I think now as the tires are kind of wearing off and we're getting later on in the run, the fuel is also causing the cars to get lighter. These cars are handling a lot differently, and it looks like it's the side-by-side battles that are really breaking things up. That side-by-side battle that's been going on for the outside of the top 10 between Young and Fowler, that really broke up that mid-pack because Harden was in that fight as well, and now we have another yellow flagger, Juno.
And I believe it is for Caleb Benshi, who is falling down the timing sheets. Karam draws to a stop, and ooh, that is a big one, and I believe that must be through the tunnel turn as well. So straight to the racespottv replay, and we pick up the tail end of it. Vicious impact. I think Isaac Snyder getting close to getting collected up in that one as well. Tucked up behind the 24 of Ken Hacker. We'll have to try and get an aerial look at that one, I think, but that looks like just a bit of a desperation move there, Jonathan, and the car very much not underneath him at all, excuse me, and for the 5 car, loops himself around very, very quickly.
No, gives me, stark memories of IndyCar's last real-life trip here with Robert Wickens' big crash. He looked down to the inside. There's just not a lot of grip down there, especially with that son of a move and hard into the outside wall. Thankfully, did not collect anyone else, but yeah, that sudden jerk to the inside, he kind of loses a bit of grip. You can see that back end step out, and he overcorrects and his front end just snaps right into the outside wall. And again, thankfully, no one else got caught up in it. It was a really good job by the rest of the field because Benji was, 15th or 14th at the time? He was not far down the order.
Yeah, they all pulled it down to the inside. Oh, Malone almost getting collected by, that would be Slavonic behind. Let's jump.
Watch them go 3 wide around him.
Oh, let's not keep actually on that because that was pretty close as well. I did see that in the aftermath. Here, though, is the important thing. Pit window should be open for basically everyone in this field. Now, did the cars that come down the last time around decide to follow the rest of the pack in? That will be the question, Jonathan, but it is a very, very busy pit road as Sage Karam leads the field then onto the lane for the first time.
Looks like just the 13 of Isaac Snyder is the lone one that stays out, and everyone else, I'm assuming, is going to be coming down. It's going to be interesting to see if it's just for fuel or if there is going to be tires, and it looks like for me it's just top off of fuel.
Interesting race off of pit road. Let's see if any mix-ups in the running order. Taylor in front of Karam, it does appear, with Morgan, Rasmus, Cohn jumping in front of Rigney. And your pole sitter, Michael O'Brien, cycles out in 8th position. You can see side by side, they're still sorting themselves out with Slavonic, Jean-Francois Matt, and Chris Lanini on the tail end of the top 20. But we were about halfway through a run again, Jonathan. The caution from my notes came out on lap 15 or so. In the second caution, lap 31, so maybe getting a bit of an indication for how difficult the car maybe starts to feel as you start heating those tires up.
Yeah, and we saw, like, you can't just make those sudden moves. I think Benji's move was all well-intended, and he had plenty of room on the inside. It's just he made that sudden move, and the tires, especially the rear ones, did not want to stick. The front ones, I think, have plenty of grip. It's these rear tires heating up, especially through these long corners like turn 3 right here. That's, I think, going to be the key. Just managing that and getting to the end. But interesting to see, what does the 13 do now? He pitted 15 laps ago. He's now inherited the race lead, and everyone else behind him has just come down pit road as well.
I believe he's at least going to get the point for leading the lap. We'll see what happens the next time around. Maybe hoping for more cautions, but lights off on the pace car, so there's your answer. He will be staying out there. Cars behind coming down to top off, and that's because we are in that window for the first fuel run, in the window as well to get it on one more stop to the end. So for some of these cars who don't have track position now, Jonathan, they may be looking to try and cycle out further up later in the race.
Yeah, just make themselves a little more comfortable on the fuel strategy. Some people may think it might go green all the way, and some people might not. It was a bit early in our fuel window for that caution to come out, if I'm being honest. It was like, we want to get around like probably 34, 37 maybe. It was a bit early, so I understand like some of those guys, especially towards the back, just topping off and making sure we're good to go if this thing goes green all the way.
Chris Staples in the Lionheart Series Discord, by the way, trying to brush off with some humor the incident that he had. I just fired my spotter. Terribly sorry to the bystander. Not how I wanted to start the race. So sorry. That's the spirit that you want to see when you make a mistake like that, Jonathan, because it happens to the best of us. But the best thing about iRacing, and indeed sim racing, is every day is race day, and Chris Staples will be, I'm sure, back out on the iRacing service in very short order to get that one from out of his memory.
So I'm assuming there's a spotter for higher position, right? Is he paying?
Send your applications to Chris Staples on Twitter then. Well, for the second time today, safety car will come back down onto the safety of pit road after Caleb Benchy and Ken Hacker had a slight coming together. Or at least Benchy was trying to get down the inside of Hacker and looped himself around. We are working lap 33, though, in the Watchman 250, presented by Chris Fowler Racing, round 5 in the Lionheart Retro Series, the first of our Triple Crowns. And here we go, already side by side across the start-finish line. 3 wide as well, because it was not a very good launch from the cars at the front of your field. It will be Matt Taylor to lead us down in towards turn 1. Sage Karam tries to follow him as well, but they were 3 wide across the start-finish line, Jonathan. I had my heart in my mouth.
I'm wondering if any of those guys might get a penalty. They're 3 wide on the outside of turn 1 as well. I think Snyder just did not time the restart well. He went very, very, very late. It was a good, respectful restart from him, and he's given plenty of room to the leaders, but he's going to end up kind of being sandwiched in this little freight train right now.
Can he avoid Aaron Morgan, race winner last time out, from getting down his inside? We've seen the outside be very strong, especially when you have the draft in front, and indeed the 13 pink and white holds on. Here comes Mike Razmas from behind, I think, to try and challenge on Aaron Morgan, but Isaac Snyder already trying to get back down the inside. Ooh, Adam Young, you were talking about penalties. I think we might have had our first victim there, Jonathan, and 29 positions down on the day for Young. He'll be very lucky that he won't lose a lap here, and indeed, he's actually coming down into his pit stall as well.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a stop and hold penalty for passing before the line. I noticed like there was some group in that midfield that was just out insanely early trying to get some passing done.
Oh, there you can see. There's the answer. And who's the other car that rockets their way up as well? Ricky Harding.
That was the 12.
Ricky Harding splits the difference. Good eyesight there. So it was the 12 car. But who's the other one, Jonathan, that very much jumped the gun there? One more look at it here. It's Paul Jenkins. I wonder if Jenkins will have a penalty as well, or if he managed to hold his momentum up in time there.
I think he managed to hold his momentum up in time. However, I think the 12 is not going to be happy about that, because the whole reason I think Adam Young has that penalty is because, well, Jenkins went a little earlier.
Well, Jenkins did respond in time. I will give him that credit, but you're right. He maybe triggered the cars behind to go as well. Adam Young still on pit road. It took a full 60 seconds to clear whatever penalty he had there. So that is day done for the driver that was starting the race up in the top 5, running around in the top couple of positions as well. They'll now have to hope for some cautions to cycle him through. Lap 37 out of 100. It's Taylor and Karam now 1 and 2. Orders reversed with Snyder and Morgan battling over 3rd. Mark Cohn up into 5th. Rasmus and Rigney 6th and 7th. Check in back with that battle for 15th, Jonathan. It's been fun so far, and Trevor Malone and Lionel Callisto, race winner 12 months ago, well, he's up 16 positions on the day.
Sometimes it's fun starting to the back and working your way through the field and just getting a feel for it, getting a rhythm so you can really pick off some of those faster guys quickly. And I think for Callisto, that this is just part of the game plan. Just ride through the field, make up as much time as you can. Might be knocking on the door of a top 10 here before the next fuel cycle.
But it's not what you want. I mean, it's always good to know that you can work your way up through the field, Jonathan, but if you put yourself in that position or race after race, it's not what you need, especially if you want to win championships.
No, it's definitely not. You don't want to be in this position week in and week out, but I think for like these big ovals like here, maybe Indianapolis, it might just be a strategy call. Like, he just wants to start through the back and work through the field. There's drivers and teams that do that all the time in the real world. They don't want to put themselves at the front at risk early. And speaking of at the front and at risk early, that 45 is heading backwards, and a few others are trying to capitalize on it.
Yeah, pole position. I mean, that was a very impressive lap. He's got mirrors filled with all sorts of competitors. Take a look off the rearward shot from Michael O'Brien, who's side by side with Reagan, but he's got, yellow flag out once again. So third one of the day. And Lionel Callisto, that's a big one at the start-finish line. So the defending race winner sees his hopes go up in smoke. Straight to the replay machine. And that's an interesting one. Gets up into the outside fence by himself and then gets collected twice. And lucky not to get collected a third time as well. Spool it back one more time, Jonathan. Take a look at the onboard here.
And this is the downside of trying to work your way up through the field. You can create and get into your own messes. So it's on the outside of the 34. Gets around to him. And I'm wondering if he's just gone a little bit hot, saw a gap on the outside.
He's looking for a gap that doesn't exist, if you ask me. He's squeezing, just trying to find some space. That car is always coming up the track. Now watch this. Let's go even slower for the second impact, because this is the bad one. This is the one that effectively ends not just his day, but indeed the month of April as well in the worst possible way. This goes not as bad as I remember it being. I think it's this one that's the bad one then.
Oh, yeah, it's this one.
Oh, there we go. And I'm sure there's going to be a couple of cars then, Jonathan, down onto pit road with some significant damage now. Not just Callisto.
Oh, he collected 2 or 3 others, and it was hard to tell who it was because everyone was flashing by so quickly.
Well, back to live. Let's go. See if anyone's down onto pit road.
So everyone has damage as well. I mean, this is a nice long shot of the rear of the field. I think there's a front wing missing.
There's Robert Mikes, a very significant portion of his front wing missing. I'm trying to just pick up some cars and see if I can spot anything. I tell you what, back to the replay machine we should go. And if we can pick up Robert Mikes. We pick up just the tail end of it, but one more time. Here we go. Oh, he tries, you know, Jonathan, but again, we're talking about speeds in excess of 300 kph, so what, that's 190 miles an hour. Is not much time for drivers to really take any type of avoiding action here.
No, that's why you saw 3 or 4 guys get collected in that. It's just what are you going to do? There's a car barreling down the front stretch and then violently comes back up. It looks like we're getting our answers here. It looks like the 70 may have picked up some damage, maybe the 89. There was a couple people that got involved in that and hit each other as well, so I'm curious to see like how many others have to stay for extended repairs.
So third caution on the day, and it is now looking like out of our 36 starters, we should be down just 30 still cycling. Adam Young, unfortunately unable to take advantage because, of course, we are only a couple of laps into this run, so no one really wants to come down at the front of the field. He stays 1 lap down as cars work their way to the back of the pace car. Lights are still on, so we've got at least 1 more lap here from getting back to the green flag action. Taking a look at movers and shakers once more. And we are starting to see a bit of a trend now, Jonathan. It is, cars cycling their way up, and there are certain drivers, that have fallen down. Qualifying clearly something they've excelled in, but clearly dirty air proving a bit more of a challenge, especially when we get into these longer runs.
Yeah, you can be quick on the fast laps all you want, but you need to be a really good long run racer on any oval track, and that goes for any oval car as well. You can run a fast lap, but it all comes down to, can you run a nice long run? Can you work in traffic? Can you work in the draft? Can you work in clean air? Like there's so many different variables that go into making a good oval run that it's hard to really, really be good at it. And you can see like we have a lot of people moving up the field. The top 3 have all moved up tons of positions. Snyder on strategy, obviously, but like Cone is up 8, Karam's up 8. Like the only one that's still kind of up there that's only lost a few positions have been O'Brien and Razmas. Everyone else has really fallen off.
I will wonder if for O'Brien if he can recover. Unfortunately for Kalisto, he was going to be one of our Sim Experience driver profiles on today's race, but I tell you what, while he's at least stationary on pit road, let's go ahead and at least talk about his Retro Series career to date. 34 starts, an impressive 22 top 10s as well. Talk about consistency there, Jason Bosson in the YouTube chat. 7 top 5s with just a solitary victory coming at this track last year. First start back at Watkins Glen in Season 3. It's been an interesting road for the number 97. And like I said, other than I think it was a 4th place finish a couple of races ago at the Phoenix Oval, not being a good start to his 2021 campaign, and indeed that cycle continues here from the tricky triangle. It is proving tricky, Jonathan. Rather deceptive are each of these turns, and I do love it for that challenge, right? No, sometimes you have that criticism from people who don't understand oval racing. Oh, it's just turning left over and over. You come to a track like this and you really come to appreciate all the various intricacies that go into open-wheel oval racing.
Yeah, there's the draft, there's the strategy, there's making sure like you're smooth and consistent, there's timing all these passes and moves, and just trying to work your way through the field and trying to manage your whole race. It's a lot different than just turning left. There's a lot that's going on through many of these drivers' heads right now. Like for Matt Tyler right now, when does he want to go on this restart?
Field, we left in control of the rookie in the Lionheart Retro Series. He's 2nd place in this championship, 15 points adrift. The man that restarts behind him. 3rd caution of the day comes to an end then with the pace car back down onto the safety of pit road. And look at that, Isaac Snyder once more with a very poor jump, and Aaron Morgan almost runs into the back of him as we get back underway here in the Watchman 250, presented by Chris Fowler Racing. Side by side on the entry into turn 1 is Aaron Morgan trying to get up into the podium positions. As out front, Matt Taylor, Sage Karam squabble it over first position, but they've got a nice healthy 0.8 of a second advantage. Don't expect that to last for long, Jonathan. Look at this in the meat of the pack, though. Trevor Malone trying to get up at the inside in towards turn 2.
The 13 not going caused a chain reaction, because I saw at the end of the shot, like there was 2 or 3 other cars that almost ran into the back of each other. So this midfield is already angry and packed up.
And look at that camera shot as they filter their way down in through turn 3. Almost 3 wide on the entry into the corner. It's George Anzaldo up on the outside. 16 positions gained for him. Momentum on the side of various cars in front. More cars, I think, with jump penalties there because Chris Fowler, Paul Jenkins, and Ken Hacker all down on pit road, Jonathan, and there's only one explanation for this. Just like what we saw on that last restart as well.
Yeah, they bunched up towards that region where Fowler was at, so I'm wondering if that is what happened.
Oh! And you know, for a second time, Jenkins has tried to just time the restart there, Jonathan, and this time, well, it caused a bit of a chain reaction. Let's slow this one down and take a look across the start-finish line as well, because I think they were 4 wide for a moment.
I don't think Fowler's down for a penalty. I think he's down for damage. I think he got hit in the right rear.
No, you're right. You're 100% right there, Jonathan.
And I don't think anyone jumped. I think all 3 of them have damage from that.
I think Jenkins jumped. That one is for sure. Now, the question is, for the rest of the field, what does that mean? Across the start-finish line to complete lap number 44, almost working half race distance in the first of our Triple Crown events. For the first time, separation forming. You've got the top 8 separated, Jonathan, by just 1.8 seconds. The gap between Chris Reagan and Ricky Harding in 9th, 1.3, as we work our way through the very quick tunnel turn.
Yeah, well, that bunching up restart, was a bit chaotic for some, caused damage for others, and, well, it's broken up the field, and I think that might be a sigh of relief for some of the guys in the midfield. They have their own little pocket to scrap. They're not 2 and 3 wide, although the field that's 19th on down is going to prove me wrong when we go back over there.
Yeah, that's true. At some point, we'll turn our attention back to them, and they'll make their way 5 wide across the start-finish line or something. On board with Sage Karam for a brief moment as the Coanda SimSport driver tries to challenge for first position. That's Ron Hacker on the inside of the red number 43 of Danny Roberts. Sometimes I just love to stop talking and listen to the sound of these engines, and it's even better when you jump on board as we do now with Hacker. As Roberts tries to squeeze him, coming through in through turn 2, just about able to make that one work, but I don't know if the 21 car, Jonathan, will really appreciate what we saw just there.
Well, virtual hand motions are not allowed in iRacing yet, and for good reason. I was going to be close, but now with a big run out of the corner, that outside line just works so much better in turn 3, but the problem is he stalls out midway down the front straight without drafting up in front.
And they're almost trying to side draft each other on the entry into the corner. Very close between the two of them, and almost returning the favor there is Hacker, who slides up the track and forces Roberts out of the throttle, and Zaldo slips down the inside of Trevor Malone to get up into the 14th position. Biggest mover on the day is the series organizer. Now 18 positions gained, eyeing a top 10 finish as well as we near the halfway marker of this race. And Jonathan, I gave you your chance to have predictions at the start of this race. I'm going to give you one more opportunity here as we near the halfway marker. What do you think will happen as you see Inzaldo trying to slip it down the inside of the 43?
Well, I think at least for the win of the race, the top 3, Taylor, Karam, and Morgan, are going to be the ones dueling it out at the end, and they're going to come across the line maybe 3 wide. Don't know which one of those 3 are going to win it, but I am really surprised to see those 3 championship contenders out front, but it's also good news for them, and good news for Inzaldo having a much better day than last time out at Mosport, because Mosport was miserable.
Yeah, but it was okay. He was able to kick back and relax, I think, after the race and enjoy company with the rest of the crew. Lionheart After Dark is always an entertaining endeavor as we ride on with the series organizer, who slipped on past the all-red machine. Of course, also carrying our HyperX onboard camera for today's race. Proud sponsors of the series, and I know George will be very happy to be carrying the onboard look as well. Back out front, I tell you what, let's turn our attention once more. Across the start-finish line comes Taylor, Karam, and Morgan to complete one more lap, and the gap is extending even further between Rigney and Harding now. It's up to 2.2 seconds here, Jonathan, and if you're any of those cars on the outside of the top 10 looking in, you must start to worry about the breakaway pack in front.
This becomes like a Talladega race. You need everyone to kind of hold their line and not go side like this. Don't do that. That is what slows you down. Going to the inside, taking the lead away from the person out front drafting, and then remaining side by side for the previous corners. That's going to slow you down for sure. That front group is all single file until that 13 has to peel out into pit road, which, by the way, when is that 13 going to come to pit road?
We are nearing that point, that is for sure. I will say it's okay to be side by side. The important thing is that you sling yourself on past so that you ensure that you also don't lose time, like you say, squabbling side by side. Effectively, what we'll see as we enter the month of May in the iRacing Indy 500, swap drafting very much at the forefront of drivers' mind, as Chris Reagan and Mike Rasmas were side by side, but the 19 machine thinks better of it for now. This will be the halfway marker of the race, so championship contenders, they aren't running in the points order, but they are the first three in the race as well. Taylor, Karam, and Morgan, with Isaac Snyder working lap 33 of his run. He's fallen to the tail end of this pack. I would think doing a bit of fuel saving. Might have to come down in a couple laps time here, Jonathan.
Well, he was trying to be ambitious, I think, last time around the track. I don't know if you noticed in turn 2, he was really, really low, got loose, and almost sent everyone in this middle part of this group scrambling. So I think Reagan had to go high, Rasmus had to check up a little bit, but now that he's at the end of the pack, he's going to have an easier time coming down, especially now it's almost 3 seconds between him and O'Brien. So it shouldn't be much of an issue. In fact, that second pack has almost been caught by the third one.
Yeah, good spot there as Roberts, I believe, side by side with Chris Lanini for 14th position. Now starting to get a peloton, if you will, as Ricky Harding trying to sweep to the inside of the pole position winner with George Anzaldo on the outside of the top 10 looking in. What a wonderful story it would be if from all the way back in the pack, I believe Anzaldo was one of the final cars to even set qualifying lap times. And not just a top 10, maybe a top 5 as well, but working lap number 52, it's side by side. Not just in the front group, but also further on back as well. Point situation for some of these guys, it's not the same as when we get to the other Triple Crown races, Jonathan. It's because we are racing on a weekday, not the full, medal, full length type of a race as well. When we head to Indian Auto Club, we'll race on the weekend, slightly longer race distances. That means double points as well. And not a factor, though, for the contenders here today.
Now, I feel like there's got to be some thinking of points on your mind and where you are in the standings on your mind. And at least right now for O'Brien, who sits kind of farther down in points in 20th place. You were up on the pole position. You were doing so well in the top 5. Slipping like this has to be a concern. There's a lot of the guys that I think are outperforming where they are in the point standings that may need a good performance. And I think that 45 car is definitely one of them.
Well, we're working lap 53 of 100 here in the Watchman 250 presented by Chris Fowler Racing. It's round 5 in the Lionheart Retro Series. Matt Taylor and Sage Karam run 1 and 2. We're going to step aside for a short commercial break. You won't miss any of the action, though, as we go side by side. Don't go anywhere here, live on RaceSpot TV. Hello and welcome back to racespottv and coverage of the Lionheart Retro Series. Round 5, the Watchman 250 here live from the Tricky Triangle in the heart of the Pocono Mountains. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Alongside is Jonathan Burke. We are past the halfway point in our first Triple Crown race of the season. And it's Matt Taylor and Sage Karam putting on a show at the front of the field. Jonathan, let's get some thoughts from you here then as we work our way through halfway in this stint. One more pit stop left on the table for these contenders, and let's see what that means for the rest of the race.
Yeah, strategizing when you're going to come down and when you're going to stay with your group. We have a little bit of a separation of the groups right now. You can see series organizer Anzalo leading the second group, but the top 8 have all broken away by a significant margin. And it's going to be key, I think, when they come down and when they cycle out. If someone comes down by themselves, they could cycle out and end up back in this mid-pack and outside the top 10.
And so just before we went to that commercial break, or as we were going, to the commercial break, we had a bit of an incident with Covey Moore, who I believe spun down to the inside of the track. So let's go take a look at what happened to the 15. Contact with the outside retaining wall, spits him into the inside, and up and over goes Covey Moore. And one more look, I think, Jonathan, at what must have been a rather interesting ride for the factory back driver.
Unfortunately, not enough spin on that car to make it a Beyblade, but pretty close. Yeah, it's just that front bite. When they overcorrect it, that seems like what's getting a lot of these guys out. And that huge contact, yeah, it's not going to come back to pit lane like that. It's going to be a big toe and maybe a few points at the end of the board. Attrition rate has been pretty high. We've lost 8 drivers, so if he wants to come back out and try and log a few laps, maybe get an extra point or two, might benefit him in the long run.
Yeah, 36 starters. We've got, 27 circulating there, and we said attrition would be important. I mean, Paul Jenkins riding around in a very damaged race car, I believe. At least looking at the speeds, not necessarily where he'd want to be, but one lap down, doing what he can. Had to spend 31 seconds in pit road getting some repairs. It is still feisty, by the way, on the edge of the top 20. Malone, as always, in the thick of things as Richie Hearn, for once the one not having internet issues, tucked up behind Paul Slavonic across the start-finish line, diving their way down in through turn 1. And Danny Roberts has a wonderful sight as these Lotus 79 cars fan themselves out through the 14 degrees of banking through turn number 1, Jonathan.
And I think we're going to see these moves come more and more aggressive over time. We're going to start to see these moves further up the field as well. There's been a lot of give and take, a lot of patience, I think, from several of these drivers. But I think once we get down to the nitty-gritty, some of these guys in the upper tiers of the field are going to start getting moving. I think Harden wants to get back inside the top 10. He's probably frustrated that he got caught by this third train in line.
Well, the problem here, if you ask me, Jonathan, is these cars are now lap by lap losing time. Some of the YouTube chat may be speculating if there's different fuel levels here because the car really does become a rocket ship as the fuel load drops off. But 4 seconds almost the gap between 8th and 9th, and if we stay green to the end here, it definitely benefits those cars out front because they'll have the track position for the rest of this race here, Jonathan.
I think also, and I wish we had like little magic markers I can draw on the cameras, and I hope we invest in that someday, but there's a little bit of damage on that 7 car, and I'm wondering, he was in front of that second train for quite some time. I'm wondering if that held up that second train enough to where now it's just a gap they're not going to make up, and we haven't seen a lot of swapping positions in that top 8 or so, even with Snyder thinking about coming down pit road, which, by the way, that 13 has to be fuel saving like God. Well, now he comes down pit road because he was out there for an insane amount of time.
Try to pick up the car coming down, but Snyder extended that stint out to about 40 laps or so. He's in a bit of an uncomfortable position. He should still need a stop to the end from here, so cycle to the tail end of the field. You're talking, by the way, about a telestrator. I mean, come on. I've got the yellow pen at my disposal here, Jonathan.
Well, I want the yellow pen at my disposal.
You don't get it. You're not special enough yet, apparently. But there you go. There's the damage you're talking about. Let's compare it right there. That's the right side wing as Alex Guyon throws a move down the inside of the tunnel turn. Damage here, you can see this is pointing off in the wrong direction. This is pointing in a much more shallow angle, so that is not going to be helping the level of downforce. I must say, by the way, this is the first time I've used this telestrator in any type of proper way.
You know what? I'm glad I've encouraged you to find new tools and to use them to our best abilities. But yeah, I'm wondering if you got that in the restart, because we saw Harden was one of those guys that was kind of in that
it's
little,
all
oh no!
And it's the big one coming through turn number 1, up and over, not just Ricky Harding, there goes Danny Roberts as well. Adam Young, who was 1 lap down, unfortunately comes across the scene of the accident with nowhere to go. And my word, Jean-Francois Matt, Chris Lanini as well, but the big one, and the one who triggered it, George Anzaldo, he was having such a good day as well. And immediately down onto pit road, throws a move down to the inside. Car already very loose and nowhere to go for Lalini. And up and over, Harding goes for a ride. Roberts goes for a ride as well.
Roberts was trying to start a NASA organization in the mountains of Pennsylvania because he got sent to space. Like, also, he was really far back. So this was a chain reaction because you see Anzaldo go to the inside, and all this unfolds right in front of him. I'm wondering if it's the 12 that just lets up. Yeah, just nowhere to go.
I really hope that Danny Roberts wasn't in VR, and because that was a ride. I'm
disoriented, and I'm not even in VR.
That was a Disney caliber ride over there. Who was the other car that I wanted to try and take a look at? Ricky Harding, and I tell you what, let's take a look at this roll bar look. The damage to the front wing that he already had, not going to matter anymore. I mean, this might be even more disorientating if you ask me. If anything, it's more amusing to see the other car going end over end in front. One more final look at the incident if we can here, and let's take a look at Adam Young's experience through this one, Jonathan, and just take a look at what happened to the 12 car. He's trying to back out of this one. Well, and there we go.
Attack from behind, then hits Anzalo and hits the outside wall. Like, that's just heavy damage, and there's a few others that were just innocent bystanders in that one. Like, it all happened so quickly, and I don't know, are we at the edge of the fuel run, do you think? Because with the mileage that 13 made, I'm curious, can they make it to the end?
They might be able to with a couple of other cautions, but I think we're also 31 laps in roughly for some of these guys. Might as well come down onto pit road as we complete lap number 63. So I'm just writing down, which is what I've started doing for all of these Lionheart races, the lap number of the caution and who was involved. And I'm struggling to write all the names out in that one. And Zaldo, obviously first. We've got Lanini. The names go on, and that's a big one, Jonathan, because we were talking about having 30 cars or so. We're now going to be looking at just 20 cars for the shootout to the end as the race off pit road is very exciting, but no changes for the top 3.
You know who wins? That 13 machine, because he just came down pit road, stayed on the lead lap, and like if I'm doing the math right, he just did 43 laps out there. He's good. 13 machine can go to the end, I think, with another caution or two. So Isaac Snyder, really good job. But yeah, no, tough way to end for all those guys. Like Roberts, was having a good scrap in the midfield. Harden, I think, was a top 10 car for sure. Adam Young was fading a little bit, but Lanini and Zaldo were both having good days. So just hard to see so many people involved in that crash, and so many that I think have to retire because there's a lot of damage and a lot of cars in that group.
Well, what I know, Jonathan, is somewhat was thinking that this race might produce an iRacing top 10 contender when it came to the final lap of the race. We might have a not top 10 contender for what we just saw there.
So I don't know if it was a not top 10. I mean, well, hold on. Danny Roberts did try and breach the stratosphere and visit the outer space, but I don't think he got close.
He tried to explore the space-time continuum by going, I don't know what he's going to call that move, but it's a move that I'm sure he's going to be trying to patent or something, because it was entertaining. Like I said as well, there are so many different ways to race on the iRacing service. You've got single screen, triple screens, all sorts of amalgamations of the two. VR, always an interesting one. I really do hope that for Harding and for Danny Roberts, they are not in the VR goggles, because they are going to be feeling quite queasy for the next couple of hours, I would think.
I just love Harding's view. You can see the flying 43 above him at some point. He's going to be like, there's another car in the air.
Well, we've got George and Zaldo in the YouTube chat already. Commiserations, I think, on offer for him, because looking good for a very strong top 10 finish. We will have a 35 lap run to the end. So, in terms of fuel, Jonathan, that's right around the window. We might be good here, and if you're talking about Isaac Snyder being needing to do fuel saving, he might not even need to worry about that at this point in time.
No, I think this 13 has put himself in position for a win with the offset fuel strategy, and the caution came out perfecttly timed. He didn't go a lap down, wasn't out of the draft. It's going to all come down to how does he run at the very end, and do we get another caution at the end, and where does it start? We've seen this top 10 all play very nice with each other. All the incidents have been well down the order. What happens if something goes wrong up here?
So the pace car back down onto the safety of pit road for the 4th time today. The big one has happened. Anzaldo, Lanini, Hardin, Roberts, and Young, all victims of that one. Adding to the graveyard of cars now lining their way in pit road. In a race that's seen between 6 and 9 cautions in history, we are tracking quite well, but things will only intensify as we get back underway for the Watchman 250 presented by Chris Fowler Racing. And guess what? Isaac Snyder makes up for all of the poor jumps that he's had in the last couple of restarts. Gets a very good launch down in towards turn 1. Sage Karam, Matt Taylor side by side as they battle it out for second position. The rest of the field single file as they get back up to speed. Richie Hearn, let's check in with the former IndyCar competitor. He's up into 12th position here, Jonathan. 22 positions gained on the day. He now inherits our Hard Charger Award on the day so far.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a couple names that we haven't really called out much, and that's definitely one of them. The 70 machine's been kind of towards the rear of the field, just minding his own business, but now with, I feel like 34 to go, that's the time to hit the button and say it's go time. But the 78 as well, Paul Slavonic, we've only called him once. They're already 3 wide, trying to go into turn 3. Hold on, boys. We still got 34 laps left.
And that's the big one. Morgan Snyder. Several championship contenders getting mixed up. Their cars coming to a standstill on the start-finish straight. I'm not sure if that's Alex Gouillard, who is still tumbling end over end down in towards pit road. But the caution flag flies very early on. And Aaron Morgan, who tasted victory for the first time in Lionheart Retro Series competition just a couple of weeks ago, north of the border at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, finds himself done for the day as he slings a move around the outside of Sage Karam. It was Snyder that lost the car all by himself. Morgan with nowhere to go. And there's Gouillon taking his own tumble. We'll take a look at what happened then to the driver from Lavoie Motorsports. But Jonathan, and not one big incident, but 2 in the space of just a couple of laps.
You know, when I said I wanted like something to happen at the front to see what would happen, I didn't mean it literally, iRacing gods, because that hard impact from Morgan and Snyder. Snyder was having such a good run, and this is, yeah, I don't know how long I can look at this, Arjun.
I'll save you there, and I tell you what, I am cognizant of the fact that we don't want viewers on RaceSpot or ESTV to start feeling motion sick. So we will cut away from this one. We just want to understand what happens here. Oh, and that's what happens there. I tell you what, this, as quickly as I can, spool it back another 20 seconds. It's contact from behind. It's going to be Trevor Malone, you'd have to think. We're just checking in with Slavonic and Hearn. So Gouillon sees the smoke in front. Malone doesn't check up in time. I wonder if Richie Hearn's internet as well spooked Gouillon very slightly. End result at the end of the day, though, is one more driver goes on a bit of a NASA expedition, if you ask me.
Now, can we get an onboard of the 78 who drove under him? Because that was impressive, how he did not get collected in that.
I tell you what, one more look at this initial incident, and then yes, I also want to see if we can look at Ron Hacker. There are so many onboards, that we need to try and work our way through. Let's start with this one, Jonathan. The good thing about Pocono is we will get long caution laps to cycle through this. With Sage Karam on pit road, so maybe damage for Karam. There's Ron Hacker's onboard. One more replay that we will take a look at here, Jonathan, with the 78 car. And then we will try and figure out what happened to Sage Karam, who comes down onto pit road and has been stationary for 40 seconds and counting.
Well, that's a top 10 award for avoiding that.
So here we go. Let's take a look at Karam's onboard then. He goes scampering for the hills, but he looks okay to me there. One more look if we can. My word. I mean, the race has just been turned on its head, and does Karam get up into the outside wall all by himself potentially there, Jonathan?
I think that's what it is. It's either he gets into the outside wall or that front wing is not as straight as it perceives to be.
That front
wing. I don't think he got into Morgan.
That front wing looks pretty straight to me, if you ask me here. Break up the telestrator once more. That angle, pretty similar on either side of the front wing there, Jonathan. Let's jump to the live coverage, though, once more, because the cycle of pit stops is filtering through. Karam is catching up to the tail end of the field. You can see 63 seconds stationary in the box for the championship leader. Now finds himself in a position, Jonathan, with 31 laps to go at the line. And he's got one more rampage up through the field and one more opportunity to try and get back to the front here.
Question. He restarted third in the last restart. Did he pass Taylor before the finish line, and was that potentially a penalty that he had to clear?
I tell you what. Let's go and spin up our all-seeing racespottv replay machine. We're going to have to go back slightly further, aren't we? Here we go. Let's take a look at the jump here as well from Isaac Snyder. I must say, he really did get a good launch there. But coming down across the start-finish line, no, looks good to me there, Jonathan.
Yeah, it just seemed like 63 was just so on the nose. I felt like that might have been a penalty, but I don't see it in any way that the two could have earned some sort of penalty for that. And now he's going to be at the end of the field. I mean, it's a smaller field, I give it that, but it's still a field to get through.
The field has been, let's just put it mildly, decimated. 36 starters, 16 cars, 17 cars, excuse me, still out there. Plus Aaron Morgan, who is a lap down and trying to figure out what he wants to do, I think, in this race. Lights are off on the pace car, though, as we complete our fifth caution period of the day. Two big ones in quick succession, and one of them has taken out a championship contender and one of only two race winners on the day so far as well. And not for the first time, we have seen spaceship status activated and pilots sending their applications in for the cadet program, as it were. It's Taylor, though, at the front, in control of this race. His championship hopes looking up as well, as the rookie brings us back to green flag action here at the Watchman 250, presented by Chris Fowler Racing. Take a look at them, almost four wide further back, and I think now, Jonathan, with this very much reduced pack, it's going to be even feistier as we work our way through the closing stages of this race.
Oh, I remember that two-car was on a mission earlier and worked his way up from 10th position to the lead. How angry is that two-car? He's already in 11th, so never mind. That answers half of my question.
I'm not exactly sure how Karam did that on the restart, but he's gone from 16th to 11th in the space of just one corner, and now working on the rear end of David Sirois. But I tell you what, back out front for now, because Mark Cohn finds himself with the potential for a race victory here. And the Watchman himself would be thrilled to take victory, but at the same time, he won't have it easy, as it's got Matt Taylor and Chris Reagan lurking in the background, with Rasmus and Rigney as well, completing the top five. 30 laps to go, Jonathan. Let's get one more final prediction from you then. You get one more opportunity to change your answer. Who comes up on top here as Aaron Morgan back down onto pit road. Day done, unfortunately, for the 48 machine.
Well, the way that two machine's driving, I kind of want to say Sage Karam. He's got 30 laps to try and get to the front, but it's hard to tell. Eyes of the three championship contenders are all going to be 1, 2, and 3, and that's not going to happen right now. So I don't know if you want me making predictions, Arjuna, because they turn out to be wrong.
That's what the greatest thing about this is. When you get it right, you look like a genius. So, I mean, just got to get it right once in a while. Taylor then leads. 29 to go. Cohn in second, Reagan third, Rasmus fourth, Rigney fifth as Cohn pops his nose to the inside line. Yellow flag back out. And you know why the yellow flag has popped out here? It's because the iRacing safety car saw Trevor Malone stopped on the inside, waiting for the field to clear themselves as he exited pit road and decided that yellow flag needed to wave once more. Take a look at what I was referring to. You can see Malone comes to a halt, waiting very graciously, let's be clear, for the field to streak on by. The iRacing safety car already was deployed, and we then, for the 6th time today, Jonathan, end up back under caution.
I feel like we can put an asterisk on that caution. I feel like it counts as caution 6, but it shouldn't, because Malone was just trying to get back out after having a damaged race car, see what it was like, and obviously he was already unhappy with it because he towed back to pit lane and has parked it for the evening. So we only have 17 drivers in the lead lap. Morgan and Mate in the 82 are still in pit road. Gonzalo's still in pit road, but that car's not getting fixed.
Yeah, we're going to have a commiserations, in memoriam section at the end of this race, I think, given how many retirements that we've had. Field stacks themselves back up behind the pace car. I tell you what, Jonathan, let's take this opportunity to just highlight some of the funny names that races at Pocono have had in the past. You've had the Domino's Pizza Pocono 500. That might be my favorite. I might need to influence my dinner strategy after this race. You also have the Quaker State 500. That also a very entertaining name. You've also got for 2021 the Pocono Organics 325 and Explore the Pocono Mountains 350, along with the General Tire #AnywhereIsPossible 200.
Yeah, there was also, I think, the Go Bowling 400.
Ah, you're right. That was last year, wasn't it?
I was going to say, if there's a track that continues to change sponsors and attract new ones, it seems to be Pocono.
And unfortunately, obviously, IndyCar no longer on the schedule here, but who knows in the future if this 2.5-mile track that has a long legacy of open-wheel competition.
It would need a bit of a work down and a bit of an overhaul, I think, in some areas of the track.
It would, but, I mean, especially in a season where, you know, you've got however many road races, Jonathan, and just 3 ovals on the schedule, I think it's very fair to anyone, any fans of the NTT IndyCar Series, to romanticize about the return of not just this oval, but indeed what we've seen, for example, in the Lionheart Speedway Series, the DW12 Aero package, which has produced some incredible side-by-side racing action. Not necessarily the same optimism about what we are expecting from the Texas Motor Speedway this coming weekend.
No, and it's frustrating for an NTT IndyCar fan right now because you have Texas, which has a doubleheader, which is nice, and Texas has been a good track for IndyCar. It's just that NASCAR comes and puts down their traction stuff and ruins the racing. And I am sad that there's not ovals. I'm sad that Iowa's off the list. I'm sad that we're not going back to the Milwaukee Mile in quite some time because that was a really good track to race at. You know, there's tons of ovals, and you know, while I say Pocono is a dangerous one, and for the incident of obviously Robert Wickens, which I've already mentioned on this broadcast, I think a little bit of safety work on this track, that the same that they do in Indianapolis, you could see IndyCar back here, and it's not like Pocono hasn't produced very, very good racing. We've seen very good racing from Pocono.
Lights still on the pace car, so when we get back to the green, we'll be exactly 25 to go. And one of the keys to the race, we said it early on, attrition. Who can endure the tricky triangle? Well, 36 starters, 17 cars left out on track. I think that tells you all you need to know. It's been a difficult combination. The thing that I do expect, Jonathan, the track record of margins of victories being measured in tenths and hundredths of a second. That's something that's probably going to continue when we get back to the green here, because the more stop and start we go, the less wear on the tires, and the less the drivers have to worry about the fuel levels as well.
Well, also, you know, the general IndyCar thing of pulling down off the exit of the corner, going down to the inside, trying to cover off the inside, and pulling back up. That shenanigans hasn't started yet, and I'm waiting for it to start, and we have, in these last 25 laps, plenty of time for that to start. And I'm expecting it at least on the run down to the finish line. Whoever the lead car is, whether it be Matt Taylor or even Sage Karam back in 11th, or even Ariel Alanis in the 25, if he ends up at the front, someone's going to try and block that inside. We're going to have 3-4 wide maybe coming to the line.
I've got a question for you, Jonathan, as we think about this. If you are one of these contenders, Taylor or Cone, coming to the white flag, who do you want to be? Do you want to be in the lead of this race? Do you want to be in second? Do you want to try and drag your way to the checkered flag?
You have to be in second. You have to be in second coming out of turn 3 on the last lap. That is the only way I think you can get a good run. It's the same if you go to big tracks such as Talladega for NASCAR or even at Indianapolis when we get there in a few weeks' time. And we have it there for real racing for IndyCar. You have to be timing that perfectly. So second place, out of the last corner, that's probably the best spot to be. If you're in first place, you're a sitting duck.
Well, I tell you what, sixth caution comes to a close as the cars make their way through turn 3. We are going to take in the sights and sounds of the Pocono Raceway. Good opportunity on this restart to see and hear the sounds of these engines as we get back to green flag racing, the Watchman 250 presented by Chris Fowler Racing. 25 laps left to decide the first winner of our Triple Crowns of the year. Through turn number 1 once more in the closing stages here in the Watchman 250. It is the Watchman himself that leads from Matt Taylor. Second place in the championship, looking for a victory. His second in his very young Lionheart Retro Series career. As side by side, working down into turn 3 with Razmas and Chris Reagan in close pursuit. This is going to be an exciting finish, and Jonathan, very much what we expected when we came here. 250 miles, we knew it would come down to the sprint to the end.
Yeah, I think what's making it better right now is that Taylor and Cone continuing to fight and being side by side is bringing all these other players into the mix. We have 6 cars under, 3/10 of a second, going all the way back to Ron Hacker, and there was another hacker, Ken Hacker, who unfortunately is out of this race. So carrying the Hacker banner, he can try and get a win. Rigney has been very, very quiet, but really, really good. All 6 of those guys have a big chance to win, and let's see if that second group can get reattached to that first group. They're not too far behind. They just stay in line.
Still waiting, of course, for Sage Karam, who won the first 3 races on the trot to kick off his campaign. Missed out last time at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park as he announced his Indy 500 plans, but returns to the series with the championship on his mind and victory as well, and returning to the HyperX victory lane on the outside of the top 10 looking in. He's got a lot of work to do. Question is, does he have some damage on his number 2 machine? Back out front, let's check in with Taylor and Cone, as they're still side by side. It's Taylor who swoops around the outside, I think, through the tunnel turn to hold on to the race lead, but now look behind as for a moment Mike Razmas tried to get to the inside of Chris Reagan. When do you start to go, Jonathan? These guys have been content, I think, to not be too aggressive so far, but I think at some point you will start seeing the slide jobs come. You'll see cars ripping that outside line, trying to get the pass done as well. And it's been a physical race so far. I hope we don't see that at the end of this race here as well.
I think for Reagan and Rasmus, you want to try and wait a little bit, but you still want to show that the top 2 that you're there. You know, they've been running in the top 10 all day, the 19 and the 68. I think they need to show that they're going to be factors in this race. And same also for Rigney, the double zero. Again, he's been up in the top 10 almost all day, and we have hardly called the double zero at all. Doing a fantastic job running in 5th place.
Slow and steady wins a race, and not just a race, but a championship at the end of the day. It's consistency over the course of a very long season, one that starts up in March, ends in December. Back in the traditional finale at Auto Club. I think that's Ron Hacker on the outside, almost pushing up into the wall. Here comes Richie Hearn to take advantage in the purple and silver, and might also get on past Michael O'Brien, the pole sitter, who has struggled in this race, but still finds himself in an impressive 6th position. Movers and shakers. Once more, let's highlight them, because Richie Hearn, 27 positions gained, Jonathan.
Oh, you know, qualifying, you start from the back, you think you're going to be careful, but oh, well, speaking of not careful, I guess Hacker's throwing the patience out the window. We're going to go 3 wide into the tunnel turn. Oh, nope, they wisely back out of it.
And there's the experience. Oh, and there's a bobble from Slavonic behind. Just about holds on to his number 78 machine, and we stay under green flag conditions, but the experience there from Richie Hearn, I think, paying dividends. Didn't want to stay side by side in through turn 2. Here, though, is Sage Karam. I do wonder, Jonathan, is that steering damage? Look at where the center of the wheel is pointing.
It could be a slight damage. It had to be that brush with the wall right before that last caution. That has to be the reason, but we have to compare it, I think, to someone else right next to him.
So there's Jenkins. His wheel looks a lot more normal. Let's also check in with someone out front. Not going to be a great example as we jump on with Taylor as he's side by side in through turn 2.
It is super slight. It's probably like a degree, maybe a degree and a half.
I would argue, if anything, though, it's less offset as Cohn slings it back down the inside. They are getting feisty for the lead, but whatever the case may be, I'm fairly sure that the YouTube chat is correct. Steering might be damaged on the championship leading number 2 car, who's side by side with Slavonic and now stuck on the outside line here, Jonathan.
Yeah, this is not the recipe you want to getting back through the field. You don't want the steering obviously broken, but you obviously don't want to be side by side and losing the draft to the guys in front. Thankfully, Hacker and the 70 are also side by side, so he can still get a draft, but they're still 3 and 4 wide. They're really aggressive for these tail end positions at the end of the top 10 right now.
And you got to remember, this might be the tail end of the pack. It's almost contact between Jenkins and Slavonic there. But this again is, like you said, Jonathan, edge of the top 10. There are serious championship points on offer here. And even if you crashed at this late stage of the race, worst case scenario, you finish 17th position, Jonathan. So, I mean, we will see desperation moves in the closing stages. Back out front, and I tell you what, let's check in here. Let's take a look at the data downloading going on between Taylor and Mark Cohn, because we've got 17 laps to go this time around. And this is the time where all of the drivers just testing out the different runs, seeing what lines will work, Jonathan. So when it comes to the final lap of the race, well, they'll be in the prime position to take advantage.
It's also interesting to see how aggressive and one and another is going to be. I feel like from Mark Cohn, who's not had a great season so far this season. He's made, 3 starts and unfortunately has only got 83 points and it's down to 28th in the points to show for it. Whereas Taylor is obviously a big championship contender. So I think for the Watchman, he's going to be the one more aggressive looking for that win, where Taylor might be a bit more conservative. So they're each trying to figure out where they like to go, where they like to pass. And they may just be encouraging some of these guys behind them, like, hey, try and get around this. Make a move. Do something.
Cohn holds on, though, through turn 1, so crucially able to stick in front. I think Karam
just got in the wall again.
You read my mind there. Losing more and more time to the cars in front. Gap between Hacker and Karam. 1 second here, Jonathan, as he defends from Paul Jenkins.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they were side by side and it broke up that drafting a little bit. I mentioned that was not a good way of catching back up. I know here comes Jenkins, who wasn't he involved in a caution, I believe, not too long ago, and is running back inside? Oh no, he had a penalty for passing before the pace car or for the start-finish line.
I don't think we clarified. I don't think if we clarified if he was a penalty or just damage, because you were right. It was very close between the two of them. But whatever, like you said, he's recovered very nicely in this race, and side by side with the championship leader. It's not making life easy, but they're also holding each other up. And oh, car into the inside wall. It's Gary Corley back in the pack. But just like we've seen earlier on in the day, because he was down on the inside grass there, he will make his way straight down onto pit road, just like Jonathan. We make our way straight to the racespottv replay machine, pushing up behind some dirty air, and, well, that's hard contact for Corley.
Well, the first time it hit the inside wall, I didn't think it airborne, so at least that's an impressive point, but yeah, he's... That's actually a kind of a weird one. I think he just overcompensated coming out of the corner and then hit the outside wall. I don't know if that was the car pushing up necessarily.
Well, back to live coverage is still side by side, so good that we stay on the green here. Still on track for maybe one of our races with the least cautions in the Lionheart Retro Series. Richie Hearn to the inside of Mike Rigney now as well, searching for a top 5 finish in the Lionheart Retro Series. It would be 30 positions gained for him. What a day it would be if he could manage to pull this one off, but he's still side by side with the pole position sitter. This time across the line, it will be 13 laps to go. 6 cautions on the day, Jonathan. Can we stay green to the end? They are starting to get separated out now once more. I think we might be looking at a very exciting finish once more here from Pocono.
You know what's helping a lot of these guys that are third on back? Cone and Taylor have been side by side almost every lap down the straightaway. It's a free draft fest right now, so that's why you see O'Brien, Hearn, and Hacker catch back up so quickly, and maybe that 35 can play a bit of a factor. It's a bit far away, but it's not impossible. We're going to go again side by side. Cone's trying to cover off the inside, but we've seen time and time again that outside line's just a bit stronger for getting the top speed.
We are inching toward the final 25 miles. Should be a fascinating end. No fuel concerns for the various drivers. Several side-by-side battles, not just here up in the top 5, but also between Richie Hearn and Michael O'Brien, still on the outside of the top 5, trying to close on in. Mark Cohn's able to hold on here. He's been able to stay in front and now positions his car just in the right position to block the momentum from Taylor coming down into the tunnel turn. It's legal, Jonathan, but I don't know if the number 8 machine is really going to appreciate how close to the wall he was being squeezed there, and indeed sweeps to the inside, excuse me. He doesn't want to be stuck up on the outside for much longer.
Oh, and like I said, like Cone has had 2 25 place finishes and a 7th place finish, so it's not like Matt should not expect this. Cone has had a rough season so far. And Mark has won 2 races in this series, so Matt should expect the aggression to come out. But I'm really surprised with how orderly those 3 cars behind have been, Reagan, Wrigley, and Razmas. Although they're going to have to start getting a bit racy because the guys behind them are getting racy. Crash! Big crash!
Oh, Sage Karam mixed up in it. Up and over, yellow flag flies for the 7th time today, and the championship leader who found his winning streak coming to an end last time as he missed out on action from the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, now involved in contact with Ariel Alanis and straight to the racespottv replay machine. Ooh, he's already sideways there, so we're going to have to spool this one even further back and maybe take a look at the aerial coverage brought to us by ATVO, the graphical partners at racespottv. I think Alanis maybe slight contact with the 78 and trying to come back down the track. 2 does not go into 1. And Sage Karam will be back down onto pit road, I'd assume, for more damage there.
Yeah, whoever was trying to slow up right there was doing the best job he could.
And he's towed.
Slow up and not hit Sage spinning back on the track, but it was all said and done. And what just a terrible way to end, I think, for him, because he worked his way back through the field with steering damage. He's just been working his way and hit the wall twice and trying to fight for that top 10 finish, and just not the way I think that 2 machine wanted to end. And same with the 25, who was putting together a nice, quiet little day.
So we will now have, if I'm doing the math correctly here, Jonathan, a 7-lap shootout till the end.
Well, that's always a bit scary.
7 laps to go with 7 cautions on the day as well. I'm not saying it's ominous at all, but just maybe just maybe something to think about. We're going to step aside then for a very quick break as we stay under caution for another time here today. We will return for the final couple of laps here in round 5 of the Lionheart Retro Series. The Watchman 250. Don't go anywhere as we go side by side. Hello and welcome back to racespottv and ESTV for continued coverage here in the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX. We are live from the Tricky Triangle and round 5 of the Lionheart Retro Series, the Watchman 250. Final stages of this race, 7th caution of the day, and we will get back to the green flag action with just 7 laps remaining. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Alongside for today's action is Jonathan Burke. We have TV cameras provided to us by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com. Additional car cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxon. You can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading on over to timing71.org and following your favorite team and driver using their world-class suite of data analysis tools. Interesting incident to bring out this 7th caution of the day, Jonathan, and it involves our championship leader. For Sage Karam, well, it's a 2nd week in a row that points on will not be heading in his favor, and Matt Taylor, well, he's at the front of this field. He'll have a very big smile on his face.
Yeah, Matt's going to have a big chance to get some quality points here. Ricky Harden as well, having crashed out. Aaron Morgan as well, so good day for him.
And so, with the Watchman himself at the front, we will get back to the green flag action this time around. Taylor, Reagan, Rigney, and Rasmus rounding out the top 5 with the pole sitter Michael O'Brien in 6th. Richie Hearn, former Indy 500 competitor, he's up in 7th. 27 positions gained on the day. Ron Hacker in 8th. Paul Jenkins in 9th. Another Paul Slavonic in 10th. David Sirois in 11th. Nick DeGroot has had a tough day but works his way up into 12th. He has endured, he has persisted. A top 10 might be on the cards for the motorsports.com editor and writer, but it comes down to these 7 laps from the Tricky Triangle. The pace car will hopefully be down on pit road for the final time today. Barney waves the green flag. Very good jump from Chris Reagan as across the start-finish line. He challenges Matt Taylor for the 2nd position, as already advantage on the side of the Watchman. He scampers out to a 0.4 of a second advantage. The rest of the field filtering their way in through turn number 1. Out of the 36 starters that took to the green flag, Jonathan, we're down to just 14 still out there.
Yeah, 14, but all with a shot, I think, of getting at least a top 5 or maybe even a victory here. And I think on that restart, if we get another late race restart, something to note there, you know, the Watchman went down to the inside trying to defend from Taylor behind. That opened the door for Reagan to come and get second, and now Taylor still under fire.
Taylor's in danger, I think, dropping out of the top 5 if he can't use the inside line effectively now. Rigney will sweep around the outside. No draft on offer to the rookie in second in this championship. Here comes Razmas as well. Assistance offered by Rigney there. I think Taylor will be very appreciative of that one. Across the line, 6 laps to go. Flying their way through turn number 1. I must say, the Lotus 79 has put on a show, Jonathan. It can be difficult to control. 7 cautions on the day so far, but just like we've seen over the course of the previous 4 races, very close wheel-to-wheel action, and something to keep our eyes on heading into the second of the Triple Crown races at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Difficult to control, but I think like passing and everything these drivers are doing is taking a lot of skill. And we've seen a lot of these cautions just be simple, getting up into the wall and spinning out and causing a caution. It's just little mistakes like that. Understanding those mistakes and not committing them or being able to fight your way out of them, that's what makes these guys at the front where they are and what puts guys like Sage Karam, Ken Hacker, and Ricky Harden out in the garage.
Oh, yellow flag. Michael O'Brien, pole sitter, has brought out the yellow flag for an 8th time today. I think the timing is also such that we will come back with a very short shootout here. So straight to the racespottv replay machine, Jonathan, and let's pick up what happened for the 45 machine. I'm thinking it might be contact with Richie Hearn because I saw Hearn with a very aggressive mood. It's not contact with Hearn. I wonder if that's a teammate in Slavonic right behind him.
Oh, and then he gets tagged by someone else at the very end. I think that was Robert Mikes, who's just trying to trundle along with damage, but I think
the good news
checks up.
The good news is, Jonathan, it's not a teammate. I misidentified there. Slavonic, very similar colors, but Avatar Auto Racing versus Riding Shotgun Motorsports. So on board with the 78 car. And, O'Brien very much checking up early into the corner. I don't really think Slavonic expected that one there.
And it happens so quickly, especially with the draft going down into turn 1. It's easy to just get that wrong, and unfortunately, that's a decent amount of damage to the 45. If he can get partial repairs and get back out there, 14th place, still a decent haul of points, so day's not done and dusted yet, and especially with also the 17 who got tagged at the very end of that slow with damage.
Sage Karam still in pit road. I wonder if he might try and cycle out in the closing stages if he can. One more position he would gain over Ariel Alanis. And in the championship picture, you never know with Karam having real-world responsibilities, as it were, in the NTT IndyCar paddock, might prove to be a bit of a challenge. Not sure if we will get lights off on the pace car this time around, but it would be a 2-lap shootout if that were to happen. Either way, Jonathan, it's either 2.5 miles or it's 5 miles here. So, not much time, and for Mark Cohn, 12 positions gained on the day. The Watchman finds himself in the prime position to win the race that bears his name.
Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be a nice celebration? The Lionheart After Dark might have a little party for him, but there's other contenders here. Reagan, I think, just showed that he wants to be aggressive and get towards the front. Rigney as well in that 00 has been quiet, moving up. Taylor, I think, wants redemption after that restart. I feel like he kind of knows he had a little bit of a screw up on that restart.
Lights still on. It will be a 2.5 mile shootout then. I'm pretty sure. And I think, Jonathan, this puts Cohn in the driver's seat. We have not seen drivers back in the pack be able to challenge on the first lap. It's been, as long as you have a good launch, of course, we have to put the emphasis on that. If Cohn can get a good launch here, very much in, I think, position to take the victory here. Would be his third career Lionheart Retro Series victory. And I'm sure one where the post-race interview is going to be just like with Jason Galvin in the Speedway Series, a couple of Lionheart IndyCar Series, at the Thumbs Up Cancer Down race at Phoenix a couple of weeks ago. That will be an emotional post-race interview, to say the very least.
Yeah, but right now he's all focused, head down. He's got to make sure the timing of this restart is good. I think he got it right last time because he defended the inside from Taylor, and then he had Reagan take the bait to go around and get second place, so he was not under fire for an entire, like, what was it, a whole lap almost. It seemed like that 39 machine was safe out front. So just getting this timing right, but how can he defend it? I really want a person who has this name on his race to get the victory. That sounds like an amazing interview and an amazing feeling for him to have, but he's still got miles to go.
Still got to get there. Question, of course, that we are going to be answered in just a couple of seconds. Are we going to get a shootout, or are we not? Across the start-finish line, lights are off on the iracing.com safety car. It will be a 2.5-mile shootout. Cone, Reagan, Rigney, Taylor, Rasmus, the top 5. Richie Hearn, don't count him out either, back in 6th position. Really could go to any one of these guys, and I mean, if Reagan wins, it would be a very, I think, impressive debut victory for him in the series. But Cone has tasted victory, Taylor has tasted victory, Rigney has tasted victory, and Rasmus has tasted victory. So this will be interesting. And starting to feel the tension rise as well, Jonathan. Not sure if you can feel that as well, but at a race that has had so many historic close finishes, we are looking at a one-lap shootout to decide it all.
And I can't tell you who's going to come out on top. It all depends right now on how that restart goes and who gets the biggest runs out of these corners. Any one of these drivers still running can win this race. And if a crash happens, heaven forbid, the 17 can win this race who's turning along with damage. We don't know.
Sage Karam in the racespottv YouTube chat has thrown down the gauntlet for Chris Reagan to take his first Lionheart Retro Series victory. It all comes down to this. 2.5 miles, the first of our Triple Crown races in the 2021 Lionheart Retro Series. It's only fitting that we come to a track that only has 3 turns. All distinct, all difficult in their own way. The safety car back down onto the safety of pit lane for the final time today as the green and white flags wave at the same time here in the Watchman 250 presented by Chris Fowler Racing. 36 cars. It comes down to the 13 competitors still out there on track as Mark Cone flies his way down into turn 1 with Chris Reagan 0.2 of a second adrift. But now it's all about the draft. It's all about the speed. Matt Taylor side by side with Mike Rasmus. That will check them out of this battle. Here comes the draft down into the tunnel turn. Speed's already in excess of 300 kilometers an hour in through turn 2. Cone, can he hang on? The Watchman himself wants to take an emotional victory here into turn 3. Side by side, it's Reagan and Cone with Rigney lurking in the background, using the draft to his advantage. Cone has the inside line. He has the momentum as well, though. Across the start-finish line to complete the first of our Triple Crown races. It's a photo finish, but it is the Watchman that takes victory by 0.08 of a second. Precision timing needed to measure the finish. And my word, we will have another emotional interview in the HyperX post-race victory lane, because Mark Cone will be over the moon with victory in the race that bears his own name. And we will head into a very excited racespottv broadcast booth. Exciting end to the race there, Jonathan. And, well, it all came down to the start that Cone got as we came back to green flag racing.
Third closest finish in series history. And I thought Reagan had it. I thought Reagan had it on that outside line, but Mark Cone did an excellent job coming off and covering that inside, and Rigney almost got there as well. Just an amazing job from that 39 machine, holding on that restart and then just playing defensive. And he didn't put his car at risk at all. I think that was really good, respectful driving.
Burn the house down, Mark Cone. The floor is yours. Your third career victory in the Lionheart Retro Series. And in the race that bears your own name, I'm sure a team will celebrate this one. Lionheart After Dark, we got George and Zaldo to acknowledge its existence in the YouTube chat. It will be popping tonight as Cone celebrates victory here in the heart of the Pocono Mountains. Lotus 79 produced once more a thrilling and entertaining race. The timing screen is updated. It's now showing 8 thousandths of a second. It's not the third closest finish in Lionheart history. It's the closest finish. Jonathan, I'm misreading what George has put in our YouTube chat, aren't I?
I think it's tied for third.
Yes.
With Michigan between Hardin and Wardlow in Season 4. I have that sheet right now. I'm trying to read it and trying to look at the timing, because you have the iRacing timing, I have the 71 timing.
You're right.
So two different numbers.
So let's give the final breakdown then, as Cone finally back down onto pit road to celebrate with his team. Michigan back in Season 3, closest margin of victory there, 2 thousandths of a second. Back in Season 4 at the Auto Club finale, it was 4 thousandths of a second. A couple of races before that at Michigan, 8 thousandths of a second as Ricky Hardin held off Dustin Wardlow. And so this will go down in the history books. It will also go down as one where lots of drivers made their way up through the field. So let's take a look at these unofficial post-race results, because Race Control will have their say on the 100 laps that we've just witnessed. The Carnox post-race results, and it's Mark Cone at the top of the order. The 39 car from Graphics LC Motorsports takes victory here in the race bearing his own name. 8 thousandths of a second separating Cone and Reagan, the purple and black, oh so close to tasting victory for the first time in his Lionheart career. Rigney across the line to round out the podium, with Matt Taylor now looking to be the championship leader, and also slotting in fourth. Razmas in fifth, Richie Hearn in sixth with Paul Sylvanik, Paul Jenkins, Ron Hacker and Nick DeGroot rounding out the top 10. Some good points on offer from many of those competitors, with Cody Wenson on debut for Alcantech Simulation NHR Esports, completing the race in 11th position. One of the final cars on the lead lap as well, with David Sirois and Robert Mikes recovering in some damage for a couple of those cars. They do finish on the lead lap. Michael O'Brien in 14th. Sage Karam came into this race looking to bounce back after missing out north of the border. 15th position for him. Contact with Ariel Alanis brings an end to his day. Gary Corley, Aaron Morgan, Jean-Francois Matt, Trevor Malone rounding out the top 20. Lots of drivers not making it to the end here, with Guyon, Schneider, Harding, and Zaldo, Lanini, Roberts, Young, Moore, Hacker, and Fowler representing the graveyard, 21st through 30th positions. Callisto, Benchy, Lovelady, Clark, Forsyth, and Staples. Races that they all will be looking to forget, in the case of Chris Staples not even making it the conclusion of lap number 1. So those are the post-race results. Let's make our way then into the HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. And so he is already standing by, so let's bring in the Watchman himself. Mark, congratulations on taking victory there. I'm sure you're over the moon. I just described some of these emotions to us on victory in the HyperX Victory Lane.
Well, man, 2 years ago, I lost this race battling for the lead. Tried to make a pass that just didn't work, and it's almost been 2 years since my last Lionheart win, and we did it. Yes! I'm so happy. I can't believe it.
And no longer in the Pink Panther, Mark. What was this new car representing for you? It's not been the easiest start to your campaign. Was it maybe a sign of the changing momentum and, well, victory, very much signifying the start maybe of the bounce back in 2021?
Well, let me tell you, I've had so many good people support me. Bear with me here. But we have Graphics LC Motorsports, which Loud Pedal Motorsports, Brian Yazik, Tyler Graff, NLR. Just so many people have helped make happen. And then Graphics Esports, Mizumi Studios, Midwest Simulation, Sam Maxwell Customs, Sim Lab, Sim Racing Studio, Thumbs Up Cancer Down, and DeWars Ice Cream and Fine Candies. all of these amazing supporters, I've always wanted to do something nice to help support, just give back. And this gold paint scheme for the Triples Crowns, it's something special I've wanted to do. We do it for the Triple Crowns, and we got in victory lane.
Talk to us about that final lap, Mark. It was a one-lap shootout for the ages. Third closest finish in Lionheart Retro Series history. It's tied with the race back in Season 4. It was all about the launch that you could get coming to the white flag. Did you think you had enough coming to the line, or were you a bit worried that Reagan was going to get the run and get the victory as well?
Let me tell you, Chris Reagan drove me so clean all race, and if he won, I would have been happy for him too, but I almost got the perfect restart, but out of 3, it was just so close. I was just hoping I could hold on. Barely did, but I was on pins and needles hoping, no, don't lose it again. We can do this, and we did.
Congratulations, Mark. Always love to hear the emotion in people's voice. I'm sure you're going to be celebrating this one for a long time to come.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone at Lionheart RaceSpot. I absolutely love your coverage, and everyone watching, thank you for all your support. It's been amazing.
So Victor in the race that bears his name, and, well, once more you could hear the emotion in his voice. Jason Galvin a couple of weeks ago from Phoenix in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. That was emotional. This was just as emotional, and joy. It's always lovely to hear that in the driver's voice. Let's move on in then. Chris Reagan, it was oh so close at the line, but the 19 machine just missed out on his first Lionheart Retro Series victory. Talk to us about that race, Chris. Very exciting, but also one that was a bit stop and start. Were you concerned knowing that it was going to be a one-lap shootout, that it was going to be tough to get the move done in just 2.5 miles?
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I'm so happy right now. In my eyes, I was probably in the best spot I could be in right there. I was talking with my teammate Richie, and I wasn't really going to attack Mark. I was really happy with the result to that point, and I just wanted us to pull away and let those guys battle, and I ended up getting that little run, and man, it was so close. I was staring at him all the way down that final straightaway. Just, come on, baby, come on. And it was so close.
What was that race like for you, Chris? Because you were a driver, I think, that had to contend with some of that dirty air, which was one of the major talking points for us up here in the booth. Seemed like some cars were able to make the outside line work. Others struggled a bit more and migrated down to the inside. But it did seem like one where it was up to the driver to find the right momentum and work their way to the front of this field.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, the line moved a little bit, but yeah, I struggle with the lift and coast, and I have to thank Richie and Richie Hearn and Justin Johnson at work. They've been helping me with the lift and coast a little bit into the corner to get that thing to turn. And yeah, you just had to pick where it was moving. You know, if they went down, I tried to go up to get some fresh air on the car. And yeah, it was just luck, to be honest. It's just luck. Those guys in this league are so awesome. Yeah, it's really cool to be up there with those guys.
You say luck, I say right place, right time. It's a skill that you very much learn. What does this mean for the rest of your season now, Chris? This type of result can sometimes propel people in their championship hopes and aspirations. What does this mean for you? No double points on offer because it wasn't a slightly longer race, but for the rest of the Triple Crowns, which, if you ask me, are going to race very similarly to what we saw today, it does bode well for you to really take advantage of double points races both at the Brickyard as well as Auto Club in December.
Yeah, I mean, finishing strong is the key to staying up there in the points. If you slip up one bit, these guys are going to go past you. And again, Richie and I talked a lot in the off season, and our goal is just to finish all the races this year. Last year I did well on road courses and not so well on ovals, so if we can just continue to finish and utilize the drops for important dates, then yeah, I think we're good.
Well, enjoy your celebrations. I'm sure it would have been much rowdier if you had taken that victory, but I'm sure it won't be too long before we see you in the HyperX victory lane, Chris, and we'll see you in the month of May as well for some very important races.
Thank you very much, guys, and I just want to give a shout out to George. Thank you very much for letting me be a part of this league and all the hard work you do, and all the other admins. This is a fantastic league, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Chris Reagan, second place, so close to his first victory in this series. And Jonathan, I must say, it's always nice when you get to hear the emotion here. I'm not going to call out any particular drivers. I will call out some nationalities. A Scandinavian driver is sometimes not the most enthusiastic to answer you, but it's always nice. Like I said, you hear the emotion, you hear how much it means to these drivers. They put in so much work, and at the end of the day, we saw how close it came at the line.
Yeah, and you can feel it, the tension building, especially in that last caution. I honestly, that probably what makes it more emotional, I think, for those two in particular, is that we had that long caution period. You mentioned the pace laps around here are insufferably long, of just sitting there wondering what is going to happen. Am I going to get this restart right? Am I going to get the right move? And I was wrong earlier. I've been wrong about a lot of things in tonight's broadcast, but I thought, like, coming out of that last corner, you were second place. You're in the catboard seat. You're sitting pretty, and Mark Cohn, the Watchman, proved me wrong. It was a spectacular last lap he drove.
We're going to take one more look at this from the aerial look before we start to wrap up the coverage and our HyperX post-race show. It was so close. In fact, I tell you what, let's go even slower. We are at 1/16th speed, and the difference is imperceptible at the line. I mean, it is neck and neck. In fact, I tell you what, we can stop things. The wonderful thing about the iRacing service, break out the yellow pen here. Let's break it out. I mean,
it looked like Reagan even got ahead for a brief second coming to the line.
That's
like, if you go back like a few seconds, like, it looked like it was going to be close.
That's the difference between the two drivers at the line. What is it about Pocono, Jonathan? I mean, Season 1, the only race where the pole sitter has also won the race. I mean, it was a margin of victory, 1/10 of a second. Since then, I mean, we're talking hundreds, and today, thousands of a second.
Pocono had the two of the top 10 closest finishes in series history, and it gave us another one. And it was, again, a good fight from both of them, and I loved the respect between both of them. They both raced each other clean, and that's what you love to see. Good, clean, hard racing coming down to the wire like that.
And so as we look forward and as we leave the tricky triangle here, let's think about what's next. We head to the land down under for the next road course race, Phillip Island. That will be a very fascinating race in 2 weeks' time. And then after that, another couple of weeks off, as there's a couple of races happening in the Brickyard, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. If you didn't know, in the last couple of weeks of May, some things you might want to pay attention to on your TV. Mid-Ohio at the start of June, and then our second Triple Crown race, June the 24th, where double points will be the name of the game here, Jonathan.
At double points, and it's the next oval one on the calendar, and that one I think is going to be really, really important for guys that are looking to make a big championship charge. Obviously, Phillip Island, Mid-Ohio, and Sonoma, they're brilliant road course tracks, but nothing beats Indianapolis, especially since you don't get the next double points opportunity until December. You need to make the most of it now.
And I'll ask you, but before we say goodbye here, Jonathan, what does this mean for someone like Karen? What does it mean for someone like Morgan as well? Because Taylor finds himself in this wonderful position in the championship now. Very much in control, very much in this position where he can, as a rookie, not worry about the pressure. Someone like Karam, who's now struggled in the last two races. We talk about drop weeks. You heard about it from the competitors there. Karam's already thinking about 2 of my drop weeks are already being used.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when you want to use those drop weeks. And again, Karam might not have any of those used. We still have this long, long year to go through. There could be more incidents down the line for him, or even for Taylor. And I think Taylor got really, really fortunate today that he wasn't involved in any of those crashes and got a nice top 5. And same with Razmas. We didn't talk about him much. He's top 5 in the points as well and finished with a solid top 5 today. And Reagan has been really consistent. So I think the consistency is going to be very, very, very key. And I think for Karam, it's just a matter of bouncing back.
Well, he'll get his opportunity at a track that he very much enjoys racing at, has victories not just in the Retro Series, but in other Lionheart competitions as well. Time to say goodbye then, but before we do so, let's also say thank you to the various names that help power the Lionheart Racing Series. Let's start with the sponsors of this competition. The Lionheart Retro Series is powered by SimExperience and the AccuForce Pro V2, the premier professional simulation racing steering system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire SimExperience ecosystem, visit simexperience.com. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX's products, visit hyperxgaming.com and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15 for 15% off all orders. For sim racers, the buttkicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit adds the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com and don't forget to use the promo code LION2021 for 20% off all orders. Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz and don't forget to use the promo code Minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. Looking for entertaining sim racing content, including the driver's eye view of the race winning today? Look no further than the DMLC Racing channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing channel and like his Facebook page at the DMLC Racing channel. It's not just those names that help power the Lionheart Racing Series, it's the ones up on the screen as well. To learn more about all of these names, as well as all three competitions in the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX, visit lionheartracingseries.com to learn more and join the series Discord to stay connected with the series competitors. Before we say goodbye then, just a reminder to stay involved with not just Lionheart, not just ESTV, but RaceSpottv as well for all of your esports action. You can follow the Lionheart's team across of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to stay in touch and keep up to date with the latest comings and goings and all of the Lionheart Racing Series action. If you want to have your latest esports fix, look no further than ESTV across of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For RaceSpottv, we have all of your great sim racing action, including the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX. Next week, the Lionheart Speedway Series heads to the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and the Lionheart IndyCar Series heads to Kentucky. We'll have all the coverage there, but it's time to say goodbye then here in the Lionheart Retro Series. On behalf of the team behind me, my name is Arjuna Kankipati, and I've been joined by Jonathan Burke. TV cameras provided to us by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com, with additional car cameras provided by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time for more Lionheart Racing Series action, but don't go anywhere on RaceSpottv. Sim racing coverage is always around the corner, but for now, it's Mark Cohn in the HyperX victory lane as he celebrates victory in the Watchman 250 presented by Chris Fowler Racing.